How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer.
Eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital.
That's difficult to answer.
is the end. There's a noise inside my head of crying people facing death. Is this the end? Is this the end? Oh, I'm burning in the stone. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the stone. What have we done to the world? What have we done to the world? I'm burning in the stone. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the stone. This is the final sweet dreams are made of these. Who am I to disagree? Travel the world and the seven seas. Everybody's looking for something. Some of them want to use you. Some of them want to get used by you. Some of them want to use you. Some of them want to be out you.
Won't anybody help us? What are we running for? When there's nowhere we can run to anymore. Can't afford to be innocent. Stand up and face the enemy. It's a do or die situation. We will be invincible. And with the power of conviction, there is no sacrifice. It's a do or die situation. We will be invincible.
Who the fuck is Karlyn? She's just some sweet lady. She's like in a knitting. She does like a knitting stream. She's like a knitting YouTuber. She does knitting.
Can we grow up a little bit and
Alt
not
Girl
be
sent
retarded?
$200. Have you
Please.
seen the work of Karlyn Borysenko? Anti-commie cult leader and is obsessed with looking at what actual far-left communists are talking about and organizing today, infiltrating them. They infiltrated the universities, schools, media. She has the receipts to back it up. Primary source evidence. Infestation is dire and she calls Republicans idiots eating slop. Agree.
Thank you for the big super chat. Yeah, oh, I know Karlyn B. She's solid. She's funny. I
The
like
great
her.
noticer sent $200.
Literally.
So
not
it's,
Ian.
it's not because
Yeah.
I haven't dangled my junk into the combat zone on purpose to get some camera footage, but that's the big part of what's the
Is
problem.
that what you call reporting?
Go
and live
under, if
streaming?
you're going to do it,
Yeah,
go
seriously.
undercover. Otherwise you're wearing a hunk of meat in a lion's den. Nick Shirley, I love you. Take care of yourself, man. Karlyn Borysenko went undercover. Do stuff like that. Like if you want to expose this thing, don't pariah,
But
please.
Ian, here's and I agree with you to an extent.
Okay, it's not my fault I'm late. It's not my fault. It's not my fault. It's not my fault, assholes. It's not my fault. First off, I got a late start today because Victor had the day off and he had an appointment in the morning, but after his appointment, he decided to come and snuggle in bed. And listen, I am obligated by the rules of marriage. If my husband wants to snuggle in bed and whatever, I am obligated by the rules of marriage to give him what he wants. And so I actually ended up I thought I was going to get a much earlier start today. And then, my husband just, he had other ideas. And so I got a late start because I had to go run an errand today. And the errand that I had to run is I needed to go to the dispensary because on Wednesdays at the dispensary I go to, it is buy one, get one 50% off. And so by the rules of woman math, in order to, by going to this dispensary today to buy weed, I actually saved money. So it's like I didn't spend money on weed today at the dispensary. I saved money on weed today. It was a fucking emergency. I thought it was starting to run out. It was an emergency. And I had to do it. And then I went to walk around a mall as I typically do to go get some steps in because I'm trying to be more physically active and whatever. And so I walked around a mall for a little while and then I was totally supposed to be on time when I came home. And then I got stuck in a traffic jam on the way home because there was a massive fucking accident on the highway. And it's not my fault that I got delayed for 45 fucking minutes longer than I really should have gotten delayed. It was you know whose fault it actually was? Massachusetts drivers. Massachusetts drivers. That is who is responsible for me being late today. Massachusetts fucking drivers. So, you know what? Hey, listen, time isn't real anyway. Does the show even start until I show up? It's not my fault I was late. I had a very deeply productive day. It just got started a little bit later than I thought I was going to because my husband wanted to snuggle in bed. Okay, that's what happened. That's what happened. I'm just being real with you guys. That's what happened. Also, the dog ate my passwords to the computer and all that stuff. But people who understand Massachusetts drivers, they understand. It was not my fault. I'm a New Hampshire driver. I'm a fucking great driver. I've never been in a car accident. Actually, that's not true. The only time I have ever been in a car accident was when I was in fucking Massachusetts and some bitch rear-ended me. So also not my fault. I wasn't doing anything. I was at a full fucking stop and some bitch rear-ended me because she wasn't paying attention. In Massachusetts, of course, because the struggle with masshole drivers is real. It is, and everyone in New England knows it. Even everyone in Massachusetts knows it, if I'm being honest about it. But that's why I was late. That's why I was late. Wasn't my fault. Can't do anything about it now anyway. You guys know, at the mall today, so obviously when I usually don't go to a mall with an intention of buying anything. I'm literally just going to walk around to get steps in. But one of the reasons I like doing that at a mall is because you get to look at stuff. It's like, okay, yeah, could I go for a walk outside? Yeah, I guess I could go for a walk outside. And on occasion I do. And the weather is getting nicer in New Hampshire now. And so maybe I'll start taking more walks outside. No, we aren't doing Kino Casino. Ding, ding, ding. Kino Casino isn't coming back till Friday now. Ding, ding, ding on Rumble says we get Kino Casino for dessert. Listen, I was so looking forward to Kino Casino tonight. Kino Casino isn't coming back till Friday now. PPP is not coming back till Friday. And so, fuck Kino Casino. They fucked us over. I was really ready for the Kino Casino tonight, and now we don't even get that. But we will get it on Friday, which will be even better because we have a spy stream on Friday. That's going to be fucking awesome. The spy stream on Friday is going to be lit. I promise you guys, you're going to want to come to the spy stream on Friday. You're not going to want to miss it. It's going to be one for the all-time books. I promise you. But after that, after the spy stream on Friday, we will watch the fucking Kino Casino. So let me go back to my story about the mall. So I'm walking around the mall, just looking at stuff. And like I said, like maybe I'll start walking outside now that it's getting nicer out. But you get to look at stuff when you go to a mall, and that's fun too. And so I went into like Urban Outfitters, which I don't know. Like I didn't actually expect to like buy anything in there, but like I was just looking around. I don't even know what's in most of these stores anymore because I just don't even know what. Yeah, malls are for people watching. Yeah, you can do some good people watching in a mall as well. But I went into Urban Outfitters and I was kind of looking around and I went into their sale section and they had this kind of like cute little like rose sweater with an interesting design. It was like a little hoodie sort of thing. And I was like looking at it and I was like, I wonder if that fits me. And it was a size medium. And like you guys know, like I know I talk about this all the time, but it still blows my mind every time this happens. Like I truly have no conception of what size my body is anymore because I lost so much weight so quickly. I have literally no conception of even what size my body is. And so I like when I'm walking around malls and things, I try on clothes just to like actually have a sense of like what size fucking clothes do I even wear anymore? I truly have no fucking idea. And so I tried on this sweater, this little like pink sweater in Urban Outfitters, and I thought it was gonna be too small for me, or at least like maybe it would fit me, but like I don't know. And it was a size medium, and I tried that shit on, and I was so pissed off because it would have been like $14. It would have been so cheap, but it was just too fucking big for me. And I was like, this is fucking wild. It's actually fucking wild. Like, and I know in theory, like intellectually, sizing standards have changed in clothes, but there are so many stores I go into now where I take a size fucking small in women's clothes. And I'm like, it's just fucking wild. This has not and listen, there was a time when this was true many moons ago when I just graduated from college and in that beautiful time in your early 20s when you can eat whatever the fuck you want and never gain weight. It's not as though I've never been smaller before, like I have been, but it's just like it's been a long fucking time since I've been like consistently starting to fit into like a size fucking small. And again, like I know that sizing standards have changed, but it's also just like really? Like seriously? Like it's the most I don't know, like I'm not trying to brag or anything. I know it might seem like that, but like it's just like it's honestly the biggest mind fuck in the world to me because it's just like it's so weird. It's so fucking weird to like literally not have a conception of what your own body even looks like. Like I feel like I look in the mirror and I see something very different than what is actually there because I feel like I still see myself at the size I like was at before I started losing weight. I feel like that's actually the image I see in the mirror. And so every single time I go in and I find like I try on clothes and I find out like, oh, Karlyn, you actually take a size small now. It's like a total mind fuck. It's like, what does my body even look like? I truly don't know. I have no fucking idea. Like, what does it even look like to people who are not me looking at it's just like it's the weirdest fucking thing. It's cool though. I'm gonna be honest. It's cool. Like I said, like I had a reason for losing weight. I wanted to get unrecognizably skinny so I could go undercover again. But like, you know what? It's actually fucking cool. It's fucking cool that my clothes are falling off me. It's fucking cool that I'm going into stores and I truly don't even know what size clothes I take anymore because I've lost so much fucking weight. It's cool, man. It's cool. It's cool. It's cool. Ding 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 says you are mastering insulin control for the ultimate level up. I guess so. It's like living off of chicken for 5 fucking months. I guess we'll do that. Although we have a protein shake today. That's what I'm living off of at the moment. Anyway, guys, I am finally here. I'm sorry I was late. It wasn't my fault. All that stuff. But are you guys ready to watch some communism? You guys want to watch some communism? We are going to be continuing our Denver Communist watch party today. And we are going to be watching a couple episodes of the Denver Communist that I wanted to watch yesterday, but like we just ended up going real slow in the Abolish the Family stuff. And so that's okay. I would rather go slow on a video and really kind of like break it down for people than to speed through it to watch more content. Cause like we can watch this stuff basically whenever we want to. So we're going to continue with our little Denver Communist watch party, because the Denver Communists, for people who were not here yesterday or who have not watched the Denver Communists with me before, the Denver Communists are one of our favorite communist groups. They are revolutionary communists. And the reason they are one of our favorite communist group is they create a fuck ton of content and they put it out on their YouTube channel and they say exactly what they believe. And we have gotten many, 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 many clips from the Denver Communists over the years. We have members of the Denver Communists calling to overthrow the government using violence. We have members of the Denver Communists talking about terrorism and how they don't have a problem with terrorism. They just have a problem with it when individuals do it. But if the collective does terrorism, that's totally cool because it's in the service of overthrowing capitalism. We have the Denver Communists literally saying fucking everything. We have them saying everything because they just give it to us all the time. They give it to us all the time. And so that's why we love the Denver Communists. If you ever want to know what the far left believes about a topic, the Denver Communists are a really great starting point because, like, well, it is not true that every organization on the left believes the same thing. The left is incredibly consistent. They are incredibly ideologically consistent across, at least on the far left organizations, the revolutionary organizations. The revolutionary organizations are completely consistent with each other in terms of what they ideologically believe. So even though there might be nuances here and there, and they might have a different like interpretation of some things, they are pretty consistent. So when we're watching the Denver Communists, this is not just about this little group of communists in Denver that are causing problems locally and, you know, doing these conferences and all this stuff. It's not actually just about them. What you're hearing from the Denver Communists is going to be representative of more of like revolutionary groups on a national level. The Denver Communists work with revolutionary groups all over the country. They're part of something called the Firebrand Collective. The Firebrand Collective is a loosely affiliated group of like revolutionary socialists and communists all over the country. And so what we're hearing in these videos is not just about this one group. We are listening for what do they believe? What language are they using? What are they organizing around? What principles are top of mind? What things are priorities for them? And we can extrapolate that out pretty accurately to say, if the Denver Communists believe X, Y, B, and Z, then we can say probably that most revolutionary groups in the country also believe X, Y, B, and Z, because the reason it's coming through the Denver Communists is because this is being communicated to them and they're having these conversations with other communists and revolutionaries all over the country. So I really want people to understand this is not just about one group in Denver. What we're listening for is what are the talking points? What are the priorities? What is the language? What is the belief system? What are they thinking about doing next? Stuff like that. And for that, for my money, the Denver Communists is just a really great place to start. They're just a really great place to start. And so if you ever have questions, Carl, like, what does the left believe about this? Just go to the Denver Communist YouTube page and literally search for it, and you will see probably videos on that topic. Yeah, spare me your angst. I don't give a fuck about that. On Rumble, don't care. Don't care. Don't spam my chat with irrelevant bullshit, please. So that's what we're going to be doing today, guys. We're going to be watching a couple videos from the Denver Communists. We're going to be watching this one, Ice and the Fantasy of Police Reform. This is from 3 weeks ago. We're also going to be watching this one, The Origins and Degeneration of the Chinese Communist Party, because I want to put to bed the blatant myth that conservative retards have created about the CCP funding all of this left-wing stuff. That is just not true. In fact, most far left groups do not like the CCP. They do not support the CCP. Most far left groups take major issue with the Party for Socialism and Liberation. And the Party for Socialism and Liberation, the National Party, is the only thing that right-wingers have that has a smidgen of a slice of maybe CCP funding. That's it. There's one individual in China that is sending money to the National PSL Party, and that is the only connection to the CCP. Now, most groups on the far left do not like the Party for Socialism and Liberation. Even though the PSL is working more nicely with like the DSA and stuff like that, Antifa overtly denounces the Party for Socialism and Liberation. There are many groups, the Denver Communists overtly denounce the Party for Socialism and Liberation. Pretty much every revolutionary group believes that the Party for Socialism and Liberation are paid protesters. They actually call them that. They call them the paid protesters that are really more about like optics than actually having a revolution. So I want to show the CCP video because I really want people to hear it directly from the Denver Communists. It's not something I'm making up. They don't like the CCP. They think China is capitalist. They don't support any of this stuff. They think that Mao is in the tradition of Stalin, and Stalin is not someone they supported. Stalin, they thought, ruined the communist revolution. They thought that Trotsky was the rightful inheritor of the revolution after Lenin, and that Stalin fucked everything up. Mao is in the tradition of Stalin. Therefore, they do not even acknowledge the revolution in China is something that they associate with. They don't support it. They think China is capitalist today. And I really want people to hear this directly from them because, again, this is an instance where if conservatives literally just shut the fuck up and listened, the left would tell them what they think on this issue. Literally. If conservatives and right-wingers just shut the fuck up for like 20 minutes of their fucking lives and sat quietly and listened to what these people are talking about in their meetings. This is not something they're putting out on the internet for trickery. That's what conservatives think, like, oh, they're trying to trick us. No, they're not. No, they're not. These are recordings of their private meetings that they are then putting on their YouTube page in order to educate other people. This is not trickery for the right. They don't give a fuck about the right. They don't even think the right is really their biggest adversary. They think liberals and Democrats are far more of an adversary than they think conservatives are an adversary. They use Trump in order to recruit and radicalize more liberals and Democrats and progressives to the far left. Trump is a gift to them. Conservative retardation is a gift for them. Conservative retardation and bullshit is why the left is operating completely unopposed. Completely unopposed. No one is opposing these people. The right doesn't even listen to these people. They don't know what they think. They don't know what they're planning. They don't know how their language works. They don't know what their operating strategy is. The right doesn't even listen to these people. They just spread bullshit and nonsense online that is unhinged from reality. And that is why groups like the Denver Communists operate completely unopposed. So that's what we're going to do today, guys. That's what we're going to do. You guys ready? Has everyone mounted the like button for me? Can people make sure you mount the like button for me on the way in the door? I would really appreciate it. Also, we don't have any gifted channel memberships yet, but I will put the gifted channel membership ticker on the bottom. Guys, if you appreciate the work I'm doing, we are about to host a several hours long class here where I'm going to break down the far left. I'm going to show you their training materials. I'm going to make sure you understand what they're saying. I'm going to answer any and all questions that you guys have about the far left. If you appreciate what I'm doing, the very best way to support it is by gifting out a channel membership, or 5 or 10 or 20 or 50 or however many you want to gift out. The very best way to support the work I'm doing is by gifting out channel memberships to the community. You can do this on Rumble as well. You can also send in super chats. You can support my work on Substack or Locals, Patreon, Twitter subscriptions, whatever you want. You can buy merch, you can buy books, like whatever you want. But for right now, I really love when people gift out channel memberships, because when you get a gifted channel membership, you get access to our spy stream supporter exclusives when we go inside live leftist trainings. And so the more people we can gift out channel memberships to, the more people we can get involved in spy stream, the more people we can expose to the left. So it funds my work and it also supports people on the channel. And that's cool. So if you feel, if I teach you something today, if I make you think, if I make you laugh, please feel free to show your gratitude by gifting out some channel memberships. I am 100% independently funded. I cannot do this unless you allow me to do it. All right? So let's dig in. I don't want to delay any longer. Let's start with ICE and the fantasy of police reform. And this was uploaded by the Denver Communists about 3 weeks ago. Whoa, hang on. We're starting off with Nick with a gifted channel membership. W's in the chat for Nick. Guys, anytime someone gifts a channel membership, please give them W's in the chat because they're gifting stuff to you guys. They're gifting stuff to you guys. And that's cool. All right, let's get this party started. No, rewinding. Boop.
A state exists for the purpose of domination of one class over another. Throughout history, the ruling classes have dominated the oppressed classes with the use of violence, whether that is in the form of artificial scarcity of food or housing, or in the form of special bodies of armed men, tasked with keeping the working class in line. Contrary to the popular belief that the police and the carceral system have always been around, these systems evolved from a unique need under capitalism. The capitalist class needed to create employee.
Hang on. They're talking about how the police was created. So the left believes that the police are a byproduct of capitalism. The police, okay, cool. The police were created in order to protect the capitalist class. That's why the left always says that the police are a racist institution, because they, of course, believe that racism is not about skin color. It is about the system of capitalism, systemic racism, the system that upholds racism, which of course means capitalism. They believe capitalism created racism when capitalism created slavery, slavery being the private property ownership of people as property. The people who owned the property were called white because they were the people who did not work in the sun. The people who were the property were called black because they were the people that did work in the sun. And we have the Denver Communists on video saying this, guys. It's not me saying it. Every time I say, here is what the left believes, I am articulating to you what they actually say in their own videos. I have the Denver Communists on video saying white means people who did not work in the sun. It meant the ownership class. The property class were black. The ownership class was white. That is how they believe race was created. Prior to that, they believed that people identified themselves more by their ethnicity. They identified themselves by their country of origin, like they were Spanish or French or British or Irish or things like that. They didn't call themselves white until they came to America and instituted the system of slavery under capitalism, the ownership of people as private property, and the white ownership class was differentiated from the black propertied class because one was the property owner, one was the oppressor, one was the one with all the power, one was the oppressed, the owned, the proletariat, for lack of a better term. This is the origin of racism as the left understands it. It's not about skin color. It's about who owns the property and who is the owned. That is what that is. And so when the left is saying whiteness, they don't mean skin color. They mean the system of ownership that created slavery in the first place. Now, how does that relate back to the police? The police are the enforcers of private property ownership. They believe the police were originally slave catchers to make sure they were enforcing the private property ownership of people as property. So that is what the left believes is the origin of the police in the country. They believe that the police are intimately connected with the system of capitalism. The police were intimately connected with enforcing the oppressive system as slavery. I don't know how many fucking times I have to say they are not referring to skin color. They are not referring to skin color. They are referring to the oppressed. They are referring to the non-property owners. Guys, I truly don't know. This is starting to drive me fucking insane. Literally every time I go through a very detailed, in-depth explanation about here is why whiteness means capitalism and has nothing to do with skin color, someone always asks, excuse me, are you sure this has nothing to do with skin color? Because I was told by all my retard conservative commentators that they hate white people and that this is all about skin color. No! Has nothing to do with fucking skin color. Ownership class, owned class, bourgeois class, proletariat class, oppressed class, oppressor class, oppressed class. Whiteness is the invisible norm. Colored is visible to capitalist gaze. There's another one from Misakan. You probably read that in a leftist book. People have got to start getting it through their heads. This has nothing to do with skin color at all. Larry Elder was called the black face of white supremacy for a fucking reason. We have Cheryl Harris on video, Cheryl Harris being the original author of the paper Whiteness is Property, literally saying people with black skin color can be white too. We have them on video saying this over and over and over and over and over again, and conservatives will not fucking listen, and they always go, excuse me, but what about this case? What about this case? What about this case? What about this case? Are you sure it's not skin color? Because it kind of sounds like skin color to me. It sounds like skin color to you because you've been lied to by the people you trusted to inform you. Let me be blunt. If it still sounds like skin color to you, it's because you listen to a lot of people who lied to you. You listen to people who made money from lying to you. So maybe, and listen, it's not your fault that you listen to people that you should have been able to trust but couldn't. But at some point, you have to put on your big boy and girl pants and understand explicitly that what you have been told by right-leaning media has no fucking resemblance to what the left actually believes. Now, back to the police. We know that whiteness is not about skin color, it is about capitalism. We know they believe capitalism created the institution of slavery, which is the ownership of people as private property. The ownership class were called white, the people who did not work in the sun. The oppressed class, the owned, the slaves, the private property were called black. It was a reference to, again, working in the sun, being visible to capitalist gaze. The police were created, the left believes, to protect the ownership of private property, to catch the slaves when they ran away and return them to the owner, to protect the ownership class and the power of the ownership class. That is what the left believes the origins of the police are. And that is what they believe has evolved into what we have today, which is about a group of people that are charged with protecting property. Now, when we're talking about ICE, no. This is not a fucking movie. Hinge into reality. W. Shigalago, thank you for the membership. Really, really appreciate that, bro. Thank you for your ongoing generosity. Now, when it comes to ICE, how does this relate to ICE? For the left, police, ICE, DHS, CPB, the military, they are all the same. The left does not distinguish between these groups. And so when we're talking about the police in relation to ICE and all of the other things, you have to understand the left views them as the same. They are not different. So everything that applies to the police also applies to ICE. ICE are the enforcers of the border. If capitalism means private property ownership, what do you need to have private property? You need to have a border around the private property. ICE enforces the border, ergo, ICE protects private property and capitalism. And they do this with all the other groups. CPB, DHS, the military, they all are about the protection of land as private property or the theft of land as private property. In the case of the military, that's what imperialism is. That's what colonization is. So all of these different organizations are created to protect capitalism is what the left actually believes. Okay? Does anyone have questions about any of that? And you're going to hear them say this. So I'm giving you a little preview of what you're going to hear so that when you hear them say it, it will sound familiar. 1 in the chat if what I just said makes sense to you. 2 in the chat if you have questions. And if you have a question, please ask. You're allowed to ask questions as long as it's a good faith question. Yes, the police are compared to the police evolved from slave catchers. They believe the slave catchers came first and the slave catchers evolved into the police. So the police are the enforcers of capitalism. Exactly. Cool. Now listen to what they have to say.
Whether that is in the form of artificial scarcity of food or housing, or in the form of special bodies of armed men, tasked with keeping the working class in line. Contrary to the popular belief that the police and the carceral system have always been around, these systems evolved from a unique need under capitalism. The capitalist class needed to create employees to work for employers, and this required organized municipal violence in the form of the police. As Vladimir Lenin once famously said, there are decades where nothing happens, and
okay, so we have a question from Buddy. Is fascism just another name for capitalism according to the left? Yes. Yeah. Anyone who is not a communist is considered to be a fascist. Anyone who supports the system of private property ownership is a fascist. That is their definition. So when I'm calling myself a fascist, it's because I want to put communists in a concentration camp. If I'm being honest about it, when I call myself a fascist, I'm calling myself a fascist because I think we should round up all communists and put them in a concentration camp. I'm not saying kill them or anything. I'm saying cordon them off from society and build a giant fence and provide for all their needs. I'm not saying I don't want them to have long and happy lives. I'm just saying that I want to concentrate all of the communists in a camp, and I want to put a giant fence around them, and I want to make sure all their needs are provided for, but I want to keep them away from all of society. So that's what I mean when I say I'm a fascist. But I am also a fascist in that I do support private property ownership. So that is the left's definition of a fascist. It's not when the left is saying fascist, they don't mean literal Nazis or literal National Socialists or like any of that. They mean people who are not communists, people who support the ownership of private property.
there are weeks where decades happen. Where the newly minted bourgeois...
Wait, hang on. JR's got an update. Gave an Antifa presentation to 80 last night with full attribution to you and Decode the Left. State senators and sheriffs attended. Sheriffs mentioned prison scenes, white Aryan... Oh, I've seen that one! I've fucking seen that one! Queer Marxism... Yo, JR! W's in the chat for JR, going out into his community, informing people, using the resources I created to go teach other people this stuff. JR, this is exactly what I want to happen. I want people to take of my fucking resources and go out and use them and teach. And all I ask is that you tell people where you got it from. That's it. You just credit me for my work, and you can use whatever you want. And I so appreciate that you did this and you took the knowledge and you went into the world and you taught more people, because that is the only way that this is going to work, guys. That is the only way that this is going to work. So thank you so much, JR. That's fucking awesome.
Z had a desire to create a modern working class that was employable and available. This had to be necessitated through modern metropolitan areas. If the working class were to be herded from the fields of feudalism into the factories and workshops, they needed to be congregated near them. In England, the parliament...
Yeah, your problem is that you're still accepting the premise. I get so much major pushback about fascism is just capitalism. It's not, but it's not totalitarianism, because okay. Whoever is pushing back on you, they are retarded and they're not going to listen. It sounds like your problem is you're trying to debate retards on the internet. I gave up debating retards on the internet years ago. We no longer debate retards on the internet. What you have to understand is most people on the internet do not fucking care, and they do not want to learn. And the only thing they are interested in is pushing their agenda and twisting whatever information they have to push their agenda. So my best advice is Stop fucking debating retards on the internet. Stop also debating retards in real life. Yeah, just fucking ignore it. It's like it is a fucking waste of your time, bro. Debating is such a fuck off waste of time. Debating doesn't convince anyone. It's just about fighting on the internet. No one's minds are ever changed. It doesn't fucking matter. It's like we can have intellectual debates where we're like, I think the left is saying this or I think the left is saying that. That's not what debating on the internet is. Debating on the internet is not an intellectual conversation. Debating on the internet is, how do I own this person and destroy this person and dunk on this person? And it's such bullshit. So that's my best advice for you. Stop debating retards on the internet or in real life. Hey, W Shikalago with another channel membership. Appreciate that, bro.
Parliamentary Acts of Enclosure from 1760 through 1830 expropriated over 6 million acres of land, evicting peasant farmers and destroying their means of making a living. The old ways of feudalistic lords and serfs gradually came to a halt. It is commonly argued today that capitalism is a type of voluntary system that we all actively choose to participate in. The early history of the system we're all oppressed by today tells a different story. The ruling class plucked a workforce from the fields, did away with their previous means of survival.
Okay, they're talking about capitalism creating slavery. I want it. Is everyone listening? No. Fuck off. Fuck off with that. Is everyone listening? Because they are about to talk about how capitalism created slavery. Okay? Capitalism created slavery. That's what you're going to hear. Monday night gave a No Kings and May Day update to 150, noting that it was anarchists, not Antifa, that jumped the No Kings. Yo, fucking JR. What a fucking legend, man. What a fucking legend. Thank you for that update, JR. That's awesome. Thanks, old sub, for the super chat. Our goal is to promote thought, get people to consider alternative paths to communism. Well, I wouldn't say that. Like, if that's your goal, that's fine. If you want to try to do that, that's cool. My goal, to be very, very clear, my goal is to study and document what the left is doing. That's my goal. I am at a place where I've been doing this a long fucking time. I have been disappointed by influencers over and over and over again. I have been disappointed by the Republican Party and Republican leaders and all of the people in the Trump administration over and over and over again. I have been disappointed by conservative media blatantly ignoring evidence and information because I wasn't in their fucking club or because it was counter to their narrative or whatever. I have just been like, the extent that I have been disappointed with the reality that I find myself in is pretty unmatched. I do not believe it's my job to convince anyone of anything. I have my beliefs, and W Shikalago for another gifted channel membership. I want to finish this thought to old sub, and this is for everyone else. It's not just to old sub. I'm explaining to you guys what I think and how I kind of see the situation, because he's given me a moment to do that, right? I stopped trying to convince anyone of anything a long time ago. I have very distinct ideas about what I think is required and what I think would work. And if people want to ask me my opinion on that, I will tell them what I think is required and what I think would work. But am I going to try to convince them of anything? I'm really not. People are going to believe whatever they believe. And when people are dug into a position, there's like nothing you can do to change their minds. If someone doesn't want to have their mind changed, they will not have their mind changed. And most people in the world that we live in do not want to have their minds changed. And they have a vested interest in staying in that comfort zone. So I don't see it as my job to give people anything to consider. I see it as my job to document and research the left, get as much of it as I can in order, as a personal intellectual curiosity and as an intellectual curiosity that many people in my community have, and then put that information out there for the public. And if people find that information, I very much view what I'm doing as creating the documentation for history, because no one else is doing this. Literally, no one else that I have found is doing this. So I view my job as creating the documentation of this time period for history. And I want to make sure what I create is accurate. And I want to make sure what I create is nuanced. And I want to make sure that what I create is completely free of propaganda and narrative. This is why it has to be independently funded. This is why I'm not working with any conservative organizations, because the minute I take money from a conservative organization is the minute that I'm responsible for pumping out conservative bullshit and narrative. That's not what I want to do. I want to create a documented, a ton of fucking documentation and archival stuff that will inform history. My work is not for today. My work is for 50 years from now, 100 years from now. God hoping it survives. It may not survive, and that's very true as well. But might my work convince people of things along the way? Might my work educate people? I sure as shit hope it does. But I don't view it as my job to convince anyone of anything. I view it as my job to put the information out there in a nuanced and detailed way and to allow people to come to their own conclusions. And I hope they come to my conclusions. But if they don't, I accepted long ago that we're probably going to lose and I'm probably going to go to the gulag or get shot or something like that when the left ultimately takes over. I really have accepted that. And that's the way it goes. That's just the way it goes. So that's my thought process on that. Anyway, back to they're about to explain capitalism created slavery.
It is commonly argued today that capitalism is a type of voluntary system that we all actively choose to participate in. The early history of the system we're all oppressed by today tells a different story. The ruling class plucked a workforce from the fields, did away with their previous means of survival, and forced them.
Okay, we got to start again because Old Sub sent another super chat. I'm gonna make sure we get this full clip, but I do want to acknowledge the super chat. Thank you, Old Sub. So you're creating the knowledge base, and it's up to others to do with that information what we will. Yes. I can only do 15 or 20 things at once. I can only do 15 or 20 things at once. I try to do way more than that. I can't. Other people have to pick up the slack. Other people, I want as many people as possible to take the information and education that I create and go out and do something with it in the world. I am never going to work in government. That is never going to happen. I am never going to be in a political party. That is never going to happen. But if people who are working in government and people who are working in political parties and people who are working in positions of influence are able to take this and by the way, when I say position of influence, anyone can be in a position of influence. Anyone can be in a position of influence. JR is going out and doing presentations in his community to hundreds of people using my stuff. That's fucking awesome. That's fucking awesome. There are many other people who have taken my materials and gone into their communities and have done presentations with it. That's a position of influence. And so other people need to step up. I am doing my part, but everyone has to figure out if you buy into what I'm doing and you follow this content and it has woken you up to what's really going on, you then have to decide what to do with it. And I'll help you. I will offer some suggestions. I'll say other people have done this, that, and the other. Here are some things you can do. But ultimately, I can't fix all the fucking problems. I can only do the things that I'm doing. And if people want more to come of that, or if you want to use the information to go to try to convince people, go forth and conquer. I wish you the best of luck. I'll help you in any way I can. W. Sheikah Law, go for another channel membership. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Appreciate that. All right. Let's listen. Again, capitalism created slavery.
The old ways of feudalistic lords and serfs gradually came to a halt. It is commonly argued today that capitalism is a type of voluntary system that we all actively choose to participate in. The early history of the system we're all oppressed by today tells a different story. The ruling class plucked a workforce from the fields, did away with their previous means of survival, and forced them into cities for the survival of the capitalist markets. This is one example of many of the ruling class and the state working together to create a viable market for the maintenance of oppressive economic structures.
Oppressive economic
The
structures.
peasants, who had lost everything they once knew,
So they're actually not talking about slavery, they're talking about feudalism, which actually is a good example as well.
were now members of the working class.
I was wrong.
A capitalist during this time was quoted as exclaiming, quote, "Once deprived of commons, the laborers will work every day in the year. Their children will be put to labor early," unquote. So much for the ruling class being job creators.
Hmm.
Then and now, they would be more aptly described as parasites. Elites during the early years of capitalism described participants in riots and uprisings as the dangerous class. London in the 1780s experienced one of the most consequential mass upheavals in its history. The Gordon riots, led by Black radicals, shook London's ruling class to its core when armed workers roamed the streets of the city, actively attacking aristocrats, representatives of the judicial system, and of course, damaging private property. Rioters freed hundreds of prisoners and destroyed the prisons themselves.
Hang on, we got a question from Robert. Will there be organized violence from hardcore queer Marxist left as part of the May Day general strike? Probably not. Probably not. I have no reason to believe we're going to see violence on May Day. May Day is going to be a mass protest. It's definitely going to be a mass event. They're going to try to shut down the economy. That's not to say we won't. I have no reason to think there's going to be organized violence from especially the queer Marxist left. I think they're going to be out protesting. I think they might, it's not out of the realm of possibility that they might destroy some property. But do I think there's going to be rioting? I don't think there's going to be rioting. But I could be wrong. We'll see what happens. But I don't think that's going to be the case.
The country's government nearly fell to the revolutionary efforts of the working class and their radical leaders. The aftermath of the riots led the British Parliament to conclude that a new system of policy enforcement would be necessary to prevent future trouble and ensure that order was upheld in the streets and the markets. This would be cheaper and create less alarm than a standing army.
Yo!
Because the workers...
Old sub! Bro! I really want to get more people contributing channel memberships so that old sub doesn't have to do this every single day. Even though I love you and I appreciate you and I know you love giving to the community, I feel so fucking guilty about how many channel memberships old sub gets out. Guys, listen, if you appreciate my work, just send it a channel membership. We need to spread the wealth, but massive W's in the chat to old sub, welcoming 20 new people into the channel. That's fucking awesome. Really appreciate it. And thank you for that, old sub. Thank you, guys. I would love to bring 100 new members of the channel into the channel today. We are 25% of the way to the goal. If you guys want to help contribute, listen, if every single person in the chat gave one channel membership right now, that's $5, guys. One channel membership, we would have already blown past the goal. So can we get like 75 people in the chat to give one channel membership? It's $5. It really does help me out, guys. It keeps me in business. It's what's providing all of this. So thank you, old sub. Thank you so much for your generosity. Really appreciate you, as usual.
Were outside of the control of the bosses as soon as they walked out of the workshop doors. A new system was required to ensure workers were kept under control when they were off of work hours.
The police.
As cities grew with more and more of the peasantry conscripted into becoming employees instead of field workers, crowds became unable to be controlled by constables or the night watch that had dealt with very few crowds of this size in the past era. Moving our discussion to the early United States, a different form of the same need to violently wrangle the workers was brewing. Contrary to what folks may believe today, white people in the early United States were not automatically predisposed against Black and Indigenous peoples.
Oh!
Poor whites are recorded as having very low motivation to join slave patrols or assist slave owners in tracking runaway slaves.
Poor white people were not a part of the capitalist system. Poor white people were not part of the oppressed or the oppressor class. Poor white people were the same as the Black slaves because they were not part of the ownership class. Does everyone understand? You're not hearing me say this. You're hearing the communists say this. They're saying this was never an issue of skin color. This was an issue of ownership class versus owned class, of the bourgeois versus the proletariat, of the oppressor versus the oppressed. It is always a class issue. It's not about skin color. Poor white people were not part of the capitalist class. Poor white people didn't want to join the police. They didn't want to be the enforcers of capitalism. Poor white people were no different than the black people. It's not about race. It's not about skin color. It's about the system. And I didn't watch this before we did, guys. Like, I don't preview any of this stuff. I just know what they're going to say because I've been watching this stuff for so long. Listen.
The workers was brewing. Contrary to what folks may believe today, white people in the early United States were not automatically predisposed against Black and Indigenous peoples. Poor whites are recorded as having very low motivation to join slave patrols or assist slave owners in tracking runaway slaves. They regularly showed up for patrol duty late or not at all. The motivation for the oppressed white working class to join slave patrols soon became both legal and financial. The fear of the white working class joining alongside the enslaved in a combined struggle against the ruling class was so prominent in the minds of the slave owners that a law was passed in nearby Barbados during this time.
The slave owners were terrified that the poor whites were going to join with the slaves and go into open rebellion. It's not about white skin color, guys. Listen.
Early United States were not automatically predisposed against Black and Indigenous peoples. Poor whites are recorded as having very low motivation to join slave patrols or assist slave owners in tracking runaway slaves. They regularly showed up for patrol duty late or not at all. The motivation for the oppressed white working class to join slave patrols soon became both legal and financial. The fear of the white working class joining alongside the enslaved in a combined struggle against the ruling class was so prominent in the minds of the slave owners that a law was passed in nearby Barbados during this time, securing a punishment of 5 years of slavery for any white person found to be assisting an enslaved person escaping. British
white people could be slaves too if they were found to be assisting Black people? You don't say.
Soldiers were initially conscripted to maintain the organized violence of slavery, as militias were found to be inefficient and unmotivated. In the period post-Haitian Revolution, led by a former slave, Toussaint Louverture, word of the courageous rebellion against oppression and exploitation spread among the enslaved population of the southern U.S. A 1796 planned slave revolt in Charleston, South Carolina, was thwarted by slave owners who came to learn that the slaves had conspired a mass uprising in the spirit of the Haitian rebellion they had heard wind of. Initially, slave patrols were paid by the plantation owners, with very little financial support coming from the state. While slave patrols worked to stop slaves from running...
Average person coming in with a 5 channel memberships. W, bro, really appreciate you. Thank you so much for the gifted channel memberships. Look at that, already up to 30? Holy shit, you guys rule.
Running away, that the slaves had conspired a mass uprising in the spirit of the Haitian rebellion they had heard wind of. Initially, slave patrols were paid by the plantation owners, with very little financial support coming from the state.
Slave patrols were paid by the owners.
While slave patrols worked to stop slaves from running away, another function was to ensure slaves had absolutely no autonomy or freedom to be in community with one another. Gathering places for slaves were seen as dangerous and a possibility of inciting rebellion. Slave patrols fulfilled the early duty of cops today, enforcing capitalism through alienating workers from one another. And
slave patrols did the early duty of the cops today. The slave patrols prevented the property from rebelling against the owners. The slave patrols guarded them to make sure that they weren't creating community among themselves. They weren't hatching a plot or anything like that. They did the work that the cops are doing today, because guys, today, and they've already said this in the presentation, but again, I want to make sure this is explicit. They believe the role of the police today is to prevent any uprising against the capitalist class. So anytime there's a protest, anytime there's any sort of like mass action or direct action, they believe the job of the police is to prevent an uprising of the working class, to prevent workers from organizing, to prevent class solidarity, to prevent the ruling class from being overthrown. The police are the guard dogs of the ruling class. Does everyone understand that? Hans understands that. 20 channel memberships from Hans. Thank you, Hans. W's in the chat for Hans. 20 more members of the channel. Already halfway to our goal for today. Thank you, bro. You rock. Thank you so much for being such an amazing supporter. We appreciate you. Guys, as a reminder, if you have questions about anything I'm saying, please ask them. We want you to ask them.
Were paid by the plantation owners, with very little financial support coming from the state. While slave patrols worked to stop slaves from running away, another function was to ensure slaves had absolutely no autonomy or freedom to be in community with one another. Gathering places for slaves were seen as dangerous and a possibility of inciting rebellion. Slave patrols fulfilled the early duty of cops today, enforcing capitalism through alienating workers from one another and enforcing the market for stolen labor. Low-class white people were also incarcerated and punished for having relationships with African Americans. The modern carceral and police state did not exist yet, with the power to enforce segregation or Jim Crow-style laws. But the slave patrol is the precursor to the systems we know today in the United States. Racism and racism.
The slave patrol is the precursor to what we know of today as the police in the United States. They could not be more explicit, guys. This is why they call the police a racist institution. And because they believe that the police and ICE are the same thing, ICE is also a racist institution because ICE enforces borders, which enforces capitalism. That's why you hear them call the police a racist institution. That's why you hear them call ICE a racist institution. 1 in the chat if you understand, 2 in the chat if this is confusing. I know we have newer people watching. Guys, if you are a newer person and hearing this directly is like blowing your fucking mind and you're like, this is not computing, what the fuck are you talking about? Please, I cannot emphasize this enough. Please identify yourselves and ask a question, because we will help walk you through it so that you understand it. But if you don't identify that you need the help, then we can't help you, okay? I'm not going to yell at you if you're asking honest questions. I will yell at you if you're being a retard and being stupid and disruptive and not fucking listening. But if you're asking honest questions, we want you to ask honest questions. We just don't want any retardation. That's what we want. Borders are also racist because borders only benefit property owners. Cool. Excellent average person.
Segregation or Jim Crow-style laws. But the slave patrol is the precursor to the systems we know today in the United States. Racism and racist systems did not simply appear out of thin air. These systems of violence were imposed by the ruling class on the enslaved black population and the poor white population, who were both seen as tools to increase profits and produce.
Racism was enforced on the poor white population because they were working with the poor black population. Everyone hear that? Racism was not just about the blacks. Racism was also about the poor whites. Does everyone understand? That's why we have to go through slow through this stuff sometimes. Listen again.
Relationships with African Americans. The modern carceral and police state did not exist yet, with the power to enforce segregation or Jim Crow-style laws. But the slave patrol is the precursor to the systems we know today in the United States. Racism and racist systems did not simply appear out of thin air. These systems of violence were imposed by the ruling class on the enslaved black population and the poor white population, who were both
The systems of racism, the systems of violence, racism and racist systems did not appear out of thin air. Racism and racist systems were imposed upon the poor black population and the poor white population by the ruling class, by the property owners. Is there anyone in the chat who still believes this is about skin color? One in the chat if you believe that this is about skin color. Two in the chat if you believe that this is about the ownership class, the oppressors, versus the proletariat, the working class. One if you believe this is about skin color. Two if you believe this is about class. I don't know how much more clear we can make it for people. They're telling you the ownership class enforced racism and racist systems on both poor black people and poor white people. It was not a matter of skin color, it was a matter of class. Do you own property or are you the owned? Are you part of the oppressor class or are you part of the oppressed? Are you part of the bourgeois or are you the proletariat? It is always about class. Systemic racism means the system that upholds racism. The system that upholds racism is called capitalism. One more time, and then I'm going to play.
and enforcing the market for stolen labor. Low-class white people were also incarcerated and punished for having relationships with African.
What is their end goal? Violent overthrow of the federal government and the abolition of capitalism, the United States government, and the Constitution. The end goal is the violent overthrow of the United States government to abolish capitalism. They believe the United States government is a capitalist government. The United States Constitution is a capitalist document. That's the end goal. Overthrow of the government, abolition of capitalism, implementation of the Marxist utopia.
Americans. The modern carceral and police state did not exist yet, with the power to enforce segregation or Jim Crow style laws.
Yeah, guys, I have made countless videos on this. So go do some research and go find the countless videos I've made on this. Go do some research and find the countless like articles I've written about this. I've discussed this so much. I'm sick of fucking discussing it. What you need to worry about, Philip, is what they're doing now and understanding their language. What they're doing after they win, because they are winning and they are kicking our ass, and it's not even fucking close. Okay? What they are doing after that should be of none of your concern. What your concern should be is how do you stop them now? Because what they're going to do after is going to be fucked up and it's going to kill everyone. They don't even know exactly all the extent of what they want to do. They have to overthrow the capitalist system before they figure that out. But it's not going to be fucking good. But if you focus on what are they going to do, that's not going to actually help you in understanding what they're doing now. So that is where we should be focusing.
For stolen labor. Low-class white people were also incarcerated and punished for having relationships with African Americans. The modern carceral and police state did not exist yet, with the power to enforce segregation or Jim Crow style laws. But the slave patrol is the precursor to the systems we know today in the United States. Racism and racist systems did not simply appear out of thin air. These systems of violence were imposed by the ruling class on the enslaved black population and the poor white population, who were both seen as tools to increase profits and produce commodities. Systems of oppression are necessary tools of capitalists in order to keep workers divided on racial, religious, gender, or other lines.
They believe that skin color is a way to keep the working class divided. Did you just hear that? When you make it about skin color, they believe making it all about skin color is a tool of the capitalist class to keep the working class whites divided from the working class blacks. Did everyone hear that? They said some other things too, like gender and all this. Basically, all of the identity categories. Okay, let me explain this. People who are new to this might believe that the left believes in identity politics. The left does not believe in identity politics. Democrats believe in identity politics. Liberals believe in identity politics. To a certain extent, progressives believe in identity politics. We are not watching Democrats, liberals, or progressives. We are watching revolutionary communists. Real revolutionary communists do not believe in identity politics. Real revolutionary communists, the ones that the conservative influencers fearmonger about but do not understand, real revolutionary communists believe that all identity categories were created by capitalism. Therefore, if an identity category exists, that identity category was created by capitalism in order to divide the working class and to get them to fight each other. The left wants to abolish all identity categories because when they abolish capitalism, they believe all identity categories will be abolished intrinsically because that is how they were created in the first place. So this is another level of like the whole whiteness means capitalism thing. Because when you understand explicitly that the left believes that the idea of dividing people on skin color was created by the capitalists to keep the working class fighting each other, there is no fuck off way that this can be about skin color because the left wants to abolish that identity category. They want to abolish it altogether. It was never about that. The left does not hate white people. The left loves white people who are on their side. The left does not love all black people. The left hates black people who are capitalists and part of the ownership class. It is not about skin color. It has never been about skin color. Listen.
And the poor white population, who were both seen as tools to increase profits and produce commodities. Systems of oppression are necessary tools of capitalists in order to keep workers divided on racial, religious, gender, or other lines. In State and Revolution, Lenin described the state as, quote, a special machine for the suppression of one class by another, and, what is more, of the majority by the minority. Naturally, to be successful, such an undertaking as the systematic suppression of the exploited majority by the exploiting minority calls for the utmost ferocity and savagery in the matter of suppressing. It calls for seas of blood through which mankind is actually wading its way in slavery, serfdom, and wage labor, unquote. While the ruling class of each era has always utilized violence to maintain their rule over the oppressed class, the police are a unique institution to capitalism. When the first cops were introduced into London in 1829, Brian Bean wrote that, quote, even conservatives of the time criticized the institution of the police in ways that today sound left-wing, with Scottish economist David Robinson writing, the police officer is really a soldier in disguise. In some respects, he is a more dangerous character than the soldier. He is as much the mercenary and slave of the executive as the soldier. Certain of his duties are of the most detestable description. One is to make himself a general spy, unquote. Bean goes on to describe that conservative commentary on the police at the time of their introduction tended to be more honest regarding their function as mercenary of the executive.
W. Shigalago, thank you! Appreciate the channel membership, bro.
Than liberal talking points on police are today. Bean continues explaining that the main job of the police then and now is as follows. 1. To regularly patrol working class neighborhoods and, through the threat of armed force, keep the lower orders in their place and protect the property interest of the rich. In the US, this included special control over black people, both enslaved and free, as an essential component. And 2, to manage large crowds by making sure that when people tried to protest, strike, or organize, they would be met with overwhelming force, unquote. The ruling class learned, through trial and error, that the image of army troops was hard to stomach for the colonized and led to rebellion and uprisings more often than not. However, a force of armed individuals with the goal of protecting the interests of the bourgeoisie.
You guys are surprising me today with the channel memberships. I really didn't know if we were going to have a good channel membership day, but of course we have the regulars, and you guys keep this ship afloat. W. Cynthia, the queen, the goddess, the legend of Cynthia. We love you. Thank you so much for your ongoing support, Cynthia, and 20 more gifted channel memberships. Look at that, guys. We are in measurable distance of our goal of 100 new channel members today, because of the generous support of so many people sending in channel memberships. Really appreciate you guys.
Made up of their neighbors and veiled in the interest of public safety was far more palatable. As Bean wrote, quote, "The task was to create a foreign military occupation that didn't look too much like a foreign military occupation," unquote. As Lenin brilliantly exclaimed in State and Revolution, quote, "A state arises, a special power is created, special bodies of armed men, and every revolution, by destroying the state apparatus, shows us the naked class struggle, clearly shows us how the ruling class strives to restore the special bodies of armed men which serve it, and how the oppressed class strives to create a new organization of this kind, capable of serving the exploited instead of the exploiters."
W. Philip, thank you. Really
the early
appreciate
history
you,
of
bro.
capitalism shows us that the formation of the police, as we know,
Hang on. Let's listen to that again. I was thanking Philip over the video, and I want to make sure I heard what they say. Want to make sure I heard what they said.
And how the oppressed class strives to create a new organization of this kind, capable of serving the exploited instead of the exploiters, unquote. The early history of capitalism shows us that the formation of the police as we know them today was not a straight line path. Experiments in different parts of the world led the ruling class to find an efficient and effective tool to consolidate control over the working class. When it comes to the police, what we see and experience today is not how things have always been. And if we have revolutionary optimism, it is not how things will be very soon. Their end is our beginning.
All right. Well, that wasn't even about ICE at all, actually. Isn't that funny? Was that actually the video I wanted to watch? Hang on. Was that the video? Reagan, was that the video I wanted to watch, or did I watch the wrong video? I watched the wrong fucking video. I watched the wrong fucking video. Reagan fucking called it at the beginning. I didn't understand what you were saying. Well, you know what? Hey, we can go watch the other. You know what? This is one of those times where it was actually a phenomenally happy accident, because it allowed for some baseline knowledge, and it was a great video. 1 in the chat if you learned something by watching that video. 2 in the chat if you knew all that already. Reagan might have known all that because she's in love with Brian Bean. 1 in the chat if you knew all that stuff. So no. 1 in the chat if you learned something from that video. 2 in the chat if you knew all that stuff already. It worked out. It worked out. Trust the fucking process. Trust the universe. If I make a mistake, but everyone learns from that mistake, is it really a mistake? The universe works in mysterious ways. If I make a mistake, but everyone learns from it, was it really a mistake? Or maybe I did it on purpose. Nothing is for naught. Nothing is for naught. Yo, this is, you second guessed yourself. You thought I was right. Reagan thought I was right, even though I was wrong, but it turned out to be the right decision regardless. So I was right anyway. We are working on this, but what I will tell you, Communist Party USA is not really relevant. The American Communist Party is also not really relevant. So you have named 2 communist groups that are not relevant in far left organizing at all. It's and by the way, it's CPUSA. It's not Communist Party. It's not CPA. CPUSA is Communist Party USA. They are not relevant on the far left. The American Communist Party is a joke on the far left. No one on the far left believes Hawes is a fucking communist. They believe they're all MAGA grifters, and they're right about that. So while we are working on maps, we are working on maps of like actual groups that are relevant on the far left, not made up internet bullshit and nonsense. That we are doing this the correct way, not the internet grifter way. All right, well, now let's watch the video I meant to watch, which is this one, ICE and the Fantasy of Police Reform. But again, I think this is a happy accident because I think this is actually going to be much better for everyone.
Yeah, so here's my little
Oh,
quick
Jason!
outline.
We
ICE
love
is
Jason.
terrible. ICE is not an aberration. Why are cops like this? What do others say we should do? And what do we say we should do? So yes, ICE is terrible. Particularly under Trump's second presidency, ICE has gone on a nationwide rampage, terrorizing immigrants, people of color, and activists with wanton violence, racial profiling, and illegal mass surveillance, in addition to detainment and deportation. ICE has been operating above the law, entering people's homes without warrants.
Super chat from the consummate old sub, the king. Cult, think of communism as a disease, and channel memberships and super chats are donating to the cure. I appreciate that, old sub. Thank you so much for that. Always the gentleman, very supportive. I appreciate you for it. Yeah, guys, think of it as we're just trying to cure communism here. We're just trying to save the fucking country from the leftist takeover here. No big deal. No big deal. It has not escaped me that someday I will be written into the history books as either a hero or a villain. I'll probably be framed as a villain. I will be in the history books. I've been involved in way too many high profile things to not at least have a footnote in history. I know that much for sure. But like, will I be a hero? Will we actually save the country from the left? Or will I be a villain and framed in a much different way because it's the victors who write the history books? I don't know. I guess we'll see. I'm good either way. Whatever. I'm doing what I can do. Shika Lago, thank you so much for the channel membership. What do you guys think? 1, if you think I'll be framed a hero. 2, if you think I'll be framed a villain. I really don't know. Maybe the aliens will intervene and we will win. Alien intervention is probably the only way we're gonna win, if I'm being honest about it. I never expect the GOP to improve. I never expect conservative retardation to improve. The only hope we have of defeating the left, aliens. Aliens. I guess we'll see. Will I be hero or villain?
And violating loads of judges' orders, and
I think one was for I'll be hero, 2 is I'll be villain, right? 1 in the chat if I'll be a hero, 2 in the chat if I'll be a villain. I think those were the numbers.
Most of the Bill of Rights. But ICE is not an aberration. The case against ICE is also a case against the police in general. Everything ICE is doing, state and municipal police have done since time immemorial, particularly to Black and brown people and the left. ICE represents a heightening of everything we oppose about the police, not a new and different thing.
Oh, he just said it. ICE represents everything they oppose about the police. Okay, so this is important. So I told you guys in the last presentation that the left believes that ICE and the police are the same thing. They do not differentiate between ICE and the police. So the reason they are anti-ICE is the same reason they're anti-police. Police are the protectors of capitalism, the protectors of private property, the protectors of the ownership class. ICE are the protectors of the border. You cannot have capitalism without a border because capitalism is private property. You need a border to have private property. Without a border, you don't have capitalism. Therefore, ICE protects capitalism. They are the same. Now, listen to the communists literally say that ICE and the police, for them, are the same thing.
Black and brown people and the left. ICE represents a heightening of everything we oppose about the police, not a new and different thing.
See?
Though it is a new and different agency with its own focus. and one exception is that the police in this country, at least, don't generally wear masks like ICE has been doing. But ICE is not a, to quote Brian Bean and Sean Larson's article that we read, ICE is not a rogue agency disconnected from an otherwise tolerable law enforcement system.
See?
It's a newish, integrated part of that system that is increasingly powerful and grotesque under Trump.
ICE is not separate from the law enforcement system. ICE is an integrated part of the law enforcement system. And when they say law enforcement, they mean the enforcers of the capitalist system.
ICE was created by Bush Jr. as part of the drastic expansion of the police state after 9/11, which also included the DHS, which it lives under, and the TSA, which it lives beside, also under the DHS. And a side note on the TSA, since they're being talked about, they're being kind of like valorized in contrast with ICE as you know, diligent servants of the public at airports. The TSA are cops too, and they're a key component of the war on terror. They propagate fear and Islamophobia, just their mere presence. But here's a little rant from a comrade about them, from a social media post. Talking about TSA as a well-trained and unionized counterpart to ICE is foolish. They are racist, transphobic mall cops, and you shouldn't care if they are paid minimum wage. They have search, seizure, and indirect detention power. They don't need firearms to be pigs. We don't advocate for the well-being or rights of any part of the repressive state apparatus. Their morale and ranks should suffer. So yeah, I love that. So ICE has been a bipartisan project, like the repression of immigrants in general. Obama built the deportation and detention apparatus now being wielded by Trump. Biden deported more than Trump than Trump did in his first term. And then Kamala Harris ran to the right of Trump on the border.
Kamala was to the right of Trump. Do you know how many times conservatives have come into my chat and have said, these people voted for Kamala Harris. Who are they voting for? Obviously Kamala Harris. They supported Kamala Harris. And I try to explain to them, I'm like, no, they fucking didn't. Like, not in any way. And do you know the proof of that?
And then Kamala Harris ran to the right of Trump on the border.
They believe Kamala Harris was a cop, who they hate cops, who was to the right of Trump on the border, which is one of their big issues. The abolition of the border, the abolition of ICE, because the border enforces capitalism. One in the chat if you still think these people voted for Kamala Harris. Two in the chat if you understand correctly, these people did not vote for Kamala Harris. These are not Democrats. These are not liberals. These are not progressives. These are communists. One in the chat if you still think these people voted for Kamala Harris. Two in the chat if you think that that's probably not reality. Scotland Scorpion seems to be the only retard in the chat. Average person, I know you know the answer. I know you know the answer. Yep, most of you got it right. The vast majority of you got it right. Congratulations.
Biden also flooded U.S. police with resources during his presidency, sending more weapons, more permanent cop training facilities, more surveillance and spyware, more AI-driven facial recognition and license plate recognition devices, and all better coordinated through multi.
Let me give you a clue. You don't know what reality is anymore? This is reality. Oh God. Oh God. Hang on. Mason, I'm going to come back to that. Hang on. No! Why did you remove the message? Oh man, I wanted to show that on screen. Whatever. Oh man, I just had a retard over on Rumble. Oh man, ding ding ding, I know you're doing your job, but I wanted to see that. I wanted to shame that asshole. What the fuck? I can't get it back now. It's not like YouTube where I can actually see what it said. Man. We had a retard over on Rumble. That's all it is. Now I can't do anything about it because ding 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 fucking removed it. Ding ding ding. Rare ding 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 L. Rare ding 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 L over on Rumble. Rare L, bro. Rare L. That's, it's okay. It's a learning experience. If you see a retard in the chat, let me shame them before you remove it. That's all I'm asking. I get great joy and pleasure in shaming the retards who come into the chat on Rumble and say, you're just a fat person, that Prager, you cancel, and blah, 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 blah. I get great joy in dressing those people down. Don't take away one of my simple pleasures in life, ding, ding, ding. Anyway. Let's go back to Mason. Let's go back to the real question. What is, everyone shamed ding 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 on Rumble. Even ding 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 is even shaming himself. I wish you guys could see the Rumble chat. Even ding 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 is even shaming himself. Okay, back to Mason saying, I don't know what reality is anymore. Listen, bro, what you need to understand is every single person in media lies to you. Every single fucking person in media lies to you. I tell people all the time, don't fucking trust me. Trust the primary source evidence. And you will see over time that when I tell you something, it is always from primary source evidence. Do you want to know why I get so much shit right about the left and about what they're going to do? I literally just sit here listening to them. You don't need to trust me. You need to look at the primary source evidence. Don't trust a single fucking person on Fox News. Don't trust a single fucking person that works for a mainstream conservative organization. Don't trust a single fucking person who works with any conservative organization that has millions of dollars in funding from some mysterious backers somewhere. Don't trust any fucking podcaster if they're not showing you primary source evidence. Don't fucking trust Glenn Beck and his fucking chalkboards because Glenn Beck is cherry picking information to include in those fucking chalkboards and not showing you the full story. He's showing you the narrative. It is an approved narrative. It's an agreed upon narrative. And obviously you shouldn't trust leftist media, but I feel like I shouldn't have to enumerate that. But what you got to understand is right-wing media is no different than left-wing media. They're all fucking liars and con artists. Most of the people who have large followings on Twitter are fucking paid. They're paid to say what they're saying. They're paid to push a narrative. They receive talking points and they get paid a certain number per tweet to push the talking points. So don't trust anyone. Trust the primary source evidence. This is primary source evidence. This is a training video directly from the left. This is what they say in their meetings to each other. You don't need to trust me. All you need to do is listen to them because that is reality. What is happening in the real world is reality. Not what the media says is happening, not the fucking take that conservative influencers and paid fucking grifters have on it. Reality is what is happening in the real world. It's what they're saying in their meetings. It's what they're doing at their events. It's how they're organizing. It's how they are working together, what their communications are. That is reality. So I hope that helps, but people have got to start getting used to looking at primary source evidence. And sometimes, and this doesn't happen often, but sometimes you might even find primary source evidence that contradicts something I'm saying. And then you bring it to the chat and you say, Karlyn, what about this? And then we look at it and we talk about it. There have been people that study primary source evidence like Mizakan who has contradicted what I'm saying and said, actually, Karlyn, it's this, and I got this from this book, and blah, 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 blah. Okay. I learn shit from Mizakan all the time. I learn shit from Master Shake. I learn shit from Reagan. I learn shit from Bod. I learn shit from like people who have been studying this stuff with me for a while. Like when they share stuff with me, it's like, okay, well, I didn't know that before. Like we learned new information today because we just looked at the primary source evidence. So that's how you know what reality is. Don't pay attention to any of the bullshit. Don't pay attention to the things that go viral because most of that is just propaganda. Just look at the primary source evidence.
Agency fusion centers. Under Trump, ICE has been openly white supremacist, exceedingly violent, and focused on intimidation and domination. And it's a war, as Bean and Larson point out, on the general public as much as it is on immigrants. This terror represents an extension of, rather than a break from normal normal border enforcement of previous administrations. And this terror represents an extension of policing in general. So why are cops like this? Well, it depends on who you ask. Liberals think that cops just need more training and oversight. They see police as a necessary and neutral force to manage social problems. The right thinks they're just doing their job.
So you notice he said liberals like the police and think that they're necessary. These people hate liberals. These people are not liberals. Every time you call them liberals, you are completely deflecting from what they're doing. These people hate liberals. They hate liberals more than they hate conservatives. Liberals want police reform. Communists want police abolition.
So why are cops like this?
Yeah,
well,
actually, Hans, you're making a great fucking point. Guys, do not do your research using AI. AI gets shit wrong about the left all the time. And listen, I love AI for many different things. I use AI very heavily. I think AI is a fucking gift. But what you have to know is you have to still look at the primary sources and you have to have a human fact check of everything because AI gets shit wrong all the time. You have to have multiple fucking fact checks in place if you're going to use it. So don't ever come to me, and I will know if you do this, with, I looked this up in AI and this is what Grok said. Grok doesn't fucking know what he's talking about. Grok is being programmed by Twitter. Grok is being programmed by fucking Twitter. So whatever's going on Twitter is what Grok thinks is reality. Do you want reality to resemble Twitter? I don't fucking want reality to resemble Twitter, but that is what Grok knows. So if you're putting something into Grok, what you are getting back is not a reflection of reality. It's a reflection of what is being said on Twitter. Okay? AI makes up sources, little gray cells. Yeah, that's true. AI makes up sources. It invents things that don't exist. AI invents quotes that don't exist. AI wants to be helpful to you, so it tries to give you the information that it thinks you're looking for. But like again, AI can be fucking awesome. AI can be fucking amazing in terms of like helping you expedite research and data analysis. AI has helped me make connections with things about the left and has taught me how to explain things very, very simply in ways that are completely correct and I wouldn't have thought of before. So I'm not shitting on AI. I fucking love AI. I want to know how many ways we can use AI to make tools that are actually productive. But you have always got to do a fact check. You always have to. I think AI is a wonderful tool for people who are already subject matter experts. I don't think AI is a great tool for people who are researching from the beginning. You have to have some foundational knowledge of what you're talking about to be able to identify that's real, that's not real, that's real, that's not real. So it's a great point.
Well, it Depends on who you ask. Liberals think that cops just need more training and oversight. They see police as a necessary and neutral force to manage social problems. The right thinks they're just doing their job. And actually, so do Marxists. We just don't agree that it is a job that we want done. A Marxist understanding of law enforcement,
Yeah, I'm working on that, honestly.
including immigration enforcement, as the organized violence of the ruling class, makes it clear that reforming the police is not possible. The job of the police is to uphold the rule of the capitalist class and reinforce social control over the working class.
So again, the job of the police is to uphold the capitalist class and reinforce their rule over the working class. It's to contain the working class so they don't go into open rebellion over the police.
The job of ICE is to make a section of the working class, immigrant workers,
chill,
more
chill.
vulnerable to exploitation and oppression, driving down wages and conditions for the whole class. As Harsha Walia writes in Border and Rule, mass incarceration and mass deportation serve as key techniques of conterminous social and labor control. Conterminous just means has the same borders. They overlap. We don't want ICE and the cops to do their jobs better. We want to end their jobs. So what
We don't want ICE and the cops to do their job better. We want to end their jobs. Liberals want reform. Liberals and Democrats want police reform. They want ICE reform. Communists and socialists want to abolish ICE, abolish the police. They are not the same.
do others say we should do? Democrats in office now want to reform ICE by making them remove their masks, actually use warrants, and generally be professional in the conduct of their violent, racist kidnappings.
Democrats want ICE to reform. He literally just said that.
We should do. Democrats in office now want to reform ICE by making them remove their masks, actually use warrants, and generally be professional in the conduct of their violent, racist kidnappings. Similar constraints have been put on the police, yet they continue to kill and terrorize at only increasing rates. Reforms like civilian oversight, residency requirements, de-escalation and mental health training, implicit bias training, and diversity hiring haven't made a dent in cops' dirty work.
All that implicit bias training we forced them to do, none of that worked. So why don't we just get rid of them?
As Brian Bean writes in Their End is Our Beginning, in order to fulfill their essential function under capitalism, cops require an extremely high level of discretionary despotism. So reforms that attempt to limit this discretionary power will always run up against the core mission of policing and lose out. Most policing reforms end up cementing and expanding.
I show you guys this. Ding, ding, ding just sent me a $50 super chat on Rumble to pay restitution for his error. He just sent me 50 fucking bucks because he fucked up. Ding, ding, ding. You know I love you and I appreciate you and I'm just joking. You know, I mean, I would have loved to shame the retard. I'm not going to lie. I really would have loved to shame that retard. That would have been really funny. And I would have appreciated it. But you didn't have to send $50 in restitution. But I also love that you did because it's funny as hell. But I appreciate you, ding, ding, ding. Thank you for holding down the fort over on Rumble. You do a great job. You're an excellent moderator. I love that you always have my whatnot link ready to put in the chat, and that's fucking awesome. And I really appreciate you, bro. So thank you for the restitution. W's to ding, ding, ding in the chat. We appreciate you and your service. We love you.
Police power. The body cams adopted after the 2014 Black Lives Matter movement have expanded police surveillance. Police reform makes them more efficient, capable, legally protected, and socially accepted, all without changing their function or behavior. Some on the left say that we should elect progressives as attorney generals and district attorneys in order to reform the police from within.
Oh yeah? Oh my god. I'm so glad he's addressing this. Isn't this what conservatives always say? We can't go after Antifa because the left holds all the district attorneys and the judges' positions. And now the communist is like, hey guys, liberals are telling us and progressives are telling us that we need to get judges and district attorneys elected. Let's see where he's going with this. Let's see what I don't know if I've ever actually heard them talk about this.
Police reform makes them more efficient, capable, legally protected, and socially accepted, all without changing their function or behavior. Some on the left say that we should elect progressives as attorney generals and district attorneys in order to reform the police from within. I say within because these are cop positions, roles in the repressive apparatus.
The judges and the district attorneys are no different than cops and have their own roles enforcing the oppressive capitalist apparatus. Okay, that's a good start, Jason. Continue.
As our left voice comrade Francesca Gomez writes, the function of a district attorney, and this applies to attorneys general too.
Oh yeah?
Their function is to investigate and prosecute crimes in conjunction with law enforcement, essentially to finish the job begun by police. Their entire role is to be on the side of the capitalist state and to prosecute and imprison people.
Oh
It
yeah?
sets back the movement for the left to legitimize these roles.
It sets back the movement for the left to legitimize the roles of district attorneys and judges. I didn't say that. I'm not making this up. You are listening to the communists tell you what they believe. It sets back the movement for the left to legitimize these roles of judges and district attorneys because they are the cops. They are finishing the job of the cops. Just rewind and listen to that again, and we'll let him talk. We'll let him keep going. But I want to make sure people hear this, and I want to make sure people understand this.
Always run up against the core mission of policing and lose out. Most policing reforms end up cementing and expanding police power. The body cams adopted after the 2014 Black Lives Matter movement have expanded police surveillance. Police reform makes them more efficient, capable, legally protected, and socially accepted, all without changing their function or behavior. Some on the left say that we should elect progressives as attorney generals and district attorneys in order to reform the police from within. I say within because these are cop positions, roles in the repressive apparatus. As our left voice comrade Francesca Gomez writes, the function of a district attorney, and this applies to attorneys general too, their function is to investigate and prosecute crimes in conjunction with law enforcement, essentially to finish the job begun by police. Their entire role is to be on the side of the capitalist state and to prosecute and imprison people. It sets back the movement for the left to legitimize these roles. It acts as an acknowledgement that on some level, the type of criminal prosecution system we have is valid. This, in turn, actually directs working class socialist energy. She's writing about whether socialists should support a campaign for DA. This, in turn, actually directs working class socialist energy toward the last place it should go, upholding one of the most destructive arms of the capitalist system.
If socialists support campaigns for DA or for a judge or something like that, they are directing their limited resources and energy to upholding the capitalist system. So why on earth would socialists support progressive campaigns for judges or progressive campaigns for a district attorney? Because if they do that, they are supporting the very thing that they want to abolish. Does everyone understand? 1 in the chat if you knew this before, 2 in the chat if this is new information. Yo, wait, the retard's back, the retard's back, the retard's back. Ding, ding, ding. Don't do anything. Don't do anything. Don't do anything. The retard literally put the same fucking chat. It's the same chat. The retard was so annoyed that they literally created a new fucking account and chatted in the same fucking thing. Ding, ding, ding has learned his lesson. He's learned his lesson. Ding, ding, ding. W, ding, ding, ding. Sucks to be you. After years of using the MAGA movement and PragerU to grift off of you are still only relevant for your husband and his questionable hard drive and stuffing your face. Guys, do you guys wonder why I completely divorced myself from the MAGA retardation and the PragerU retardation and Zionism? Is anyone unclear about why I don't want to be involved in MAGA retardation or PragerU Zionist retardation? Well, yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, it's like they have to go after Victor, obviously. What kind of delusional shit is this? Guys, 1 in the chat if I am relevant to you and you think I'm relevant in the world and what I'm doing is relevant to people. 2 in the chat if this is just a big fuck off waste of time and I should just really go back to eating bonbons and ice cream and whatever the fuck and like all that. I don't know if I've ever actually eaten a bonbon in my life, but ice cream I've definitely eaten. 1 in the chat if you think that that what I do is relevant and may have more impact than retards on the internet understand. 2 in the chat if I'm irrelevant. Actually, you know what? Can we play a fun game? I fucking love macaroons. Macaroons are fucking great. Macaroons are the best. Guys, can we play a game? Can we give Karlyn 25 channel memberships right now just to piss off the MAGA retard? Can we hit our goal? Can we hit our 100 channel membership goal right now just to piss off the MAGA retard? Because the MAGA retard wants you to think that I have no supporters and that no one supports my work. They shill this shit all the time. They're like, Karlyn is her own supporter. And they basically think that I'm sending in all the super chats and channel memberships and stuff like that. And they think that you guys are me. They think that all of you guys are really me. Can we get 25 more channel memberships like right fucking now just to piss off the MAGA retard? We got W for Duchess. We got W for Chica Lago. Thank you for the channel memberships. We got W to Axehead with 5 channel memberships. We got W's to Average Person with a channel membership. We got W's to Cynthia, 10 channel memberships. Yo, how many is that? Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 8, 18. That's 18. Now I have to do fucking math. You guys are gonna make me do. No, fuck! I deleted my banner. Damn it. Channel memberships given out today. It was 75 plus 93. Channel banner back in effect. Yo, almost. Foz Nuts gets us over the goal. Gets us over the holy shit. Foz Nuts. Banging past that goal, bro. Banging past that fucking goal. 113 channel memberships. So, thank you guys. I love you. Massive dubs. Massive dubs. Do I now have 2 banners? The fuck is going on? Why are there 2 fucking banners? There shouldn't be 2 fucking banners. Save. There we go. That's what we should have. Yo, old sub in with another 5. W's old sub. We appreciate that. Photo girl in with 1. But see, I love it when the retards come around because everyone wants to piss off the retards. W's to photo girl. Thank you so much. Let me add 6 more channel memberships to the tally, bringing us up to 119, I believe. Yo, you guys rock. So thank you, retard on Rumble. I want to thank the retard over on Rumble for allowing me to, ooh, look there. This is Kieran. I bet you this is Kieran. This is Kieran having another narcissistic meltdown. This is Kieran having another narcissistic meltdown because thanks to Kieran, I just made several hundred more dollars. Let's see. That was like, I just made like $200 more because Kieran, the narcissist who was stalking me for years, trying to get me to kill myself, has created yet another account over on Rumble where he's having another narcissistic break because this is all he does with his sad, pathetic life. But now, sadly, loser, we're banning you again. Go away. And now we're going back to socialism. Now we're going back to socialism. Now we're going back to our real stuff. Fishing, W. Thank you, fishing. Thank you, fishing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. 120. Kieran, you want to make me any more money today? You can keep creating accounts and, continue to cause nonsense. And we will make fun of you and you will make me more money. And if that's what you want to do, bro, hey, I'm not going to argue with more money. I can always buy more luxury purses. There's going to be a Rolex auction tonight on Whatnot. That's going to be pretty fucking great. Anyway.
I bring this up because locally some on the left are campaigning for a progressive attorney general candidate in Colorado.
Yo, Liberty!
So
w!
another occasionally
Thank
popular
you.
idea on the left is community. I'm laughing at Tim booing in the chat. That's funny.
Although I do need to buy a new car before I buy a Rolex. Victor and I had a conversation. I'm getting a new car. Victor, it's so funny. Side note. It's so funny because, like, Victor, you guys know, like, my husband sells cars now for a living. And so what Victor's doing is every once in a while, he's been trying to coax me more towards buying a new car. I'm not getting a Jeep. I'm getting a Honda because my husband works for a Honda dealership. All right. I'm getting a fucking, I mean, I guess if they had a Jeep, I would get one, but whatever. My husband works for a Honda dealership. I'm gonna get a new car. But like, he keeps driving cars over to the house to try to get me to try them out. And I've just rejected them. I'm like, too big, don't fucking like it. But I think we may have picked out, I said to him the other night, I was like, I want a car that's fun to drive. Give me the car that's fun to drive. And he's like, I have an answer. And then I said, Victor, can we work this out where you literally do everything to work out the leasing of the car? Because apparently everyone that works for a car dealership just leases their cars. I didn't know that. But apparently everyone who actually works for car dealerships just leases their cars. And so I'm like, all right, we'll go with this leasing option, whatever. Victor is the one selling cars. I'm going to assume that he knows what the fuck he's talking about. And so I said to him, I was like, Victor, can you just take care of literally everything? And I just show up and pick up the car. Can you take care of all the dealing and the trading in of my car and do it? Can you literally do everything for me? And I just literally show up after I select which car I want. And Victor was like, yes. Yeah, I can, Karlyn. And I was like, awesome. So I am trusting the husband to handle the car situation as long as I approve of the car that we are buying or leasing, whatever.
Another occasionally popular idea on the left is community control of the police, which involves creating new elected bodies to oversee police policies, budgets, hiring, training, and discipline. Community control of the police is built on the assumption that the police can be bureaucratically administered away from their historical mission. Community control efforts fail to actually control the police. On the contrary, they provide an illusion of accountability and an additional undeserved stamp of public approval. Toothless advisors cannot challenge the job of the police, but only politely request they do it better. They work with the police to help reconcile the community to them. We, Marxist revolutionaries, want to worsen, not improve, police-community relations. The worse they are, the more honest and realistic the community's assessment of the police is. Reconciling the occupied to their occupiers is unthinkable. As Woods, Irvin, Ricardo Levins Morales, Zola Richardson, and Jonathan Stiegel wrote in their article, The Fantasy of Community Control of the Police, at a moment when the very legitimacy of the police system is in question, like never before, community control provides a strategy to re-stabilize police departments and convince our communities to give them
old sub. Look what came in the mail today. Yours will be in the mail tomorrow. Wait, what's this? What's this? Hang on, let me see. Yo, old sub made a flag. What? Old sub made a flag? Bro, how fucking cool is that? How fucking cool is that? Thank you, old sub sailor. That's fucking awesome, bro.
Another chance to become the opposite of what they've always been. This is how the prophetic imagination of mass movements gets squeezed into the back channels of the system. We should never help rescue the police from a legitimacy crisis. So what do we say we should do? Well, we should, or what do Marxists say we should do? Or let's talk about what we should do. Here's what I think. We should support efforts that weaken the police by seeking to defund or disarm them, by seeking to make it easier to prosecute them and to limit what they can do and where they can go. We want to limit their numbers, their tools, their weapons, and their ability to do their jobs. Examples might include banning chemical weapons and chokeholds, restricting cooperation between agencies, eliminating qualified immunity, making it easier to prosecute and sue the police, and expelling police from our schools and our labor unions. So those are efforts that we might support, all of them.
That's actually a good point. I want to make sure we talk a lot about the unions and how the unions are the center of leftist organizing. That does not include the police union, okay? The police union are not doing leftist organizing. In fact, leftists don't even want the police to be involved in unions because they believe that unions are like their thing and no one else is allowed to have them. And so, like, when we're talking about unions being the center of leftist organizing, we are not talking about the police unions. That is a completely different thing. We're just talking about basically like every other union.
Eliminating qualified immunity, making it easier to prosecute and sue the police, and expelling police from our schools and our labor
they don't
unions.
believe police unions are real unions.
So those are efforts that we might support. All of them weaken the police. We should oppose efforts that strengthen the police, like funds, any funding, training, equipment, any effort, and we should also oppose efforts that legitimize them, like community control of the police in its various forms. Community control efforts replace the transformative vision of the abolition movement with a bureaucratic solution. As Marxists, we should not breed illusions in the possibility of reform or oversight of the police. They cannot be meaningfully reformed or controlled by ordinary people. They invariably serve the rulers of this racist, sexist, queerphobic, imperialist, and capitalist system. So abolish ICE is on the lips of the movement again, and that's great. Abolishing ICE is possible if we take that to mean about eliminating that particular agency and redistributing its functions within the DHS or elsewhere. But abolishing the police in general is not possible under capitalism. Abolishing borders and their
Abolishing the police is not possible under capitalism because the police are the enforcers of capitalism. You cannot abolish the police without abolishing capitalism. Capitalism means the government. Capitalism means the US government. It means the US Constitution.
violent policing is also a particular agency and redistributing its functions within the DHS or elsewhere. But abolishing the police in general is not possible under capitalism. Abolishing borders and their violent policing is also not possible. The profit-making system depends on them. Accordingly, it is more appropriate to use abolish in the abolish ICE slogan than it is to use it in abolish the police. A particular police agency like ICE or even the Minneapolis PD might get abolished under capitalism, but the police cannot. The bosses will never give up their armed guards. By the way, abolishing the Minneapolis Police Department was on the ballot in 2021 after the explosive George Floyd movement got people thinking in that direction. The measure failed, but it was mostly a rebrand to the Department of Public Safety and not an actual abolition. Denver's anarchist city council person, Candice Tabaka, beloved on the local left, actually proposed replacing the Denver Police Department with a peace force around the same time. And I don't know, I always thought they were already called peacekeepers. Like, we're not going to get there, but with a rebrand. Brian Bean is in Their End Is Our Beginning, which I've been quoting here and there, is decisive on the question of reform or abolition. They say, the police cannot be reformed. No appeals should be made for them to change themselves or come to our side. Our appeal, our demand is for them to be defunded, disarmed, disbanded, smashed, and abolished. Abolition will not be arrived at via an incremental path, and reforming away their core project within capitalism is not only impossible, but will also be contested vociferously. The breaking of state power and its replacement by popular rule is necessary for the breaking of police power. They are indeed self-same. Border enforcement and law enforcement represent efforts by the capitalist class to mold and manage those they exploit and oppress.
Bing.
They represent a capitalist class intervention in the class struggle, a struggle they will only stop fighting when they have definitively lost. Instead, the police, or really the class whose rule they uphold, must be defeated in revolutionary struggle. For now, revolutionary struggle.
The police must be defeated in revolutionary struggle. What does that mean? Pop quiz. What does that mean? Yeah, I don't know, bro. A lot of people get blocked on YouTube. I can't go and block everyone, but like, I'm glad you're on Twitter. I do general amnesties on YouTube every once in a while where I just unblock everyone that's blocked, but like, I can't do that right that second, and it's impossible to unblock individual people. So I'm very sorry you got blocked on YouTube. I don't know what you did to do it, but hang out on Twitter, go to Rumble. There are other options. Make another YouTube account. You can make a different one, whatever. What does revolutionary struggle mean? No one knows the answer to this? Seriously? We're not continuing until I get the answer of what revolutionary struggle means. It's a little bit more specific than capitalism. Don't just throw out capitalism every time I ask a question. It means a revolutionary action to overthrow the government, Thank you! Excellent definition from Soul Quest. Revolutionary struggle means a revolutionary action to overthrow the capitalist U.S. government. That's what that means. Old sub, you can just create another account, bro. Like, you need to keep appealing, but just create another account if you want to be back on Twitter. It's really not that hard. And like, most people have had to create more than one account. So that's what I would do if I was you. I would not wait to get your other account back. I would just create a new account. And if you get your other one back, you get it back, and that would be rad.
A struggle they will only stop fighting when they have definitively lost. Instead, the police, or really the class whose rule they uphold, must be defeated in revolutionary struggle. For now, revolutionary struggle means helping to build a mass militant movement that opposes all oppression and strives toward class independence.
That means overthrowing the
It means
government.
educating ourselves and others on the police, ICE, borders, mass surveillance, climate catastrophe, queerphobia, imperialism, capitalism, and much more, and how to understand and interconnect and fight against all of the above. Between any movement of the exploited and oppressed and its goal stand the police, often quite literally in a riot line. Whether that goal is a better contract, reproductive rights, climate justice, or the end of a genocide. Every movement, if it goes far enough, must grapple with the matter of the police, and getting it right can be decisive at key turns. Marxist ideas about the police are in the minority and must be patiently argued for among activists who have arrived at many similar conclusions, though not as many as we might like. Ultimately, revolutionary struggle means fighting for socialism, the forcible overthrow of the bosses, their police dogs, and all existing social conditions. To quote,
that means the government.
Brian Bean one last time, it is a red sun that will dawn on the first morning of a cop-free world.
Okay, well, this is why it's so important to understand the language and to understand the implications of the language, because it might sound like Jason, who is a revolutionary communist who believes in collective terrorism but not individual terrorism, and it might sound like he just wants fairness and he just wants to fight climate change and all this stuff. No. When you understand his ideas, when you understand his philosophy, he wants to overthrow the government. He wants to violently overthrow the government. That is what he's talking about. A world without police, a world without cops can only be achieved in their mind if you overthrow capitalism. The United States government is based in capitalism. The Constitution is based in capitalism. They call it the capitalist government. They call the Constitution a capitalist document. When they're talking about overthrowing capitalism, that means the government. Everyone understand? All right. Well, that was good. That was good. You guys want to watch that CCP video? We got one more video to watch today. We are switching gears away from ICE and the police, and we're going to learn how socialists and communists view the CCP. Is everyone ready? 1 in the chat if you're ready to watch the CCP video. 2 in the chat if you think it sounds dumb. 1 in the chat if you're ready to watch the CCP video and dispel the conservative mythology around all of this stuff. 2 in the chat if you think this sounds like a dumb and stupid idea. Cool. Lots of ones. Let's get started.
So I'll be talking tonight about the origins and degeneration of the Chinese Communist Party. And I wanted to start with the sources that I'm using. One of the big inspirations for this talk for me was I had started reading this book, Mandate of Heaven, Marx and Mao in Modern China, and it's by Nigel Harris, and notable, I guess, because it was part of the International Socialism series, some good books in that one. I didn't finish this book, but, definitely inspired me to do this kickoff. But these next couple articles we recommended for tonight, the Red Flag Socialist Worker article, Dennis Kosith, and the other one. But I wanted to just briefly mention this one that wasn't on the list, this Left Voice article by Sue Me that's really good. And there was this Ashley Smith article that's in Red Flag and Tempest that was imperialism and anti-imperialism today that was really good. And then lastly, I got a lot out of Dennis Koseth, former ISO member. He's at a lot of the socialism conferences, has a lot of his talks from those conferences recorded and compiled on We Are Many. And I used a lot of those for this, especially as one on.
The fuck is We Are Many? The fuck is that? Hang on. Is this like Haymarket Books back catalog? Is this Haymarket Books' back catalog? I didn't know they had a whole website for this shit. Are you serious? No, I did know this. We've watched this guy before. We've watched these old episodes of the this is like, yo, we've watched this stuff before. Guys, did you guys know we have recordings of the Socialism Conference going back like over 10 years? We've watched some of these. This is like vintage fucking socialism. But I didn't know they had a whole website. I didn't know they had this. Reagan, I'm sure you probably told me at some point and it just didn't click for whatever reason. Look. Look at all the back catalog. They've got it all linked here. Holy shit. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, communists. Well, I knew about the YouTube channel. I don't think I clicked about the website. Wow. See, this is why we watch socialism, guys. This is how we learn about this stuff.
Tiananmen Square and some others. So definitely check those out, and I'll share them in the chat at the end. So I'll be covering the background of China, formation of the Chinese Communist Party, revolution and counter-revolution, the development of Maoism, and China as a capitalist state today. But to get started,
China is a capitalist state today. It's almost like they just said the quiet part out loud. The communists believe that China, it's on their fucking screen, guys. China is a capitalist state today. The left is not like China. The left does not think China is their ally. The left believes China is a capitalist state.
And China as a capitalist state today. But to get started, wanted to reference this map on the side. Later on, we'll talk about briefly the Uyghurs who are in this region of China and the Tibetans who are in this region, both ethnic minorities within China and religious minorities. And then to point out these three big population centers, Beijing's the capital, Shanghai, and then this Guangdong region has big cities like Guangzhou and Shenzhen, which are two of the biggest cities in China. But also to talk about Hong Kong and Macau.
I mean, like all that geography is really important and everything. But where do they make my high-end knockoff bags? Where in China are they making the high-end knockoff luxury purses that are indistinguishable from the real thing? That's really what I want to know in this communists. I mean, come on.
They were colonies of England and Portugal. And in the 90s, they made a plan with China to return those to China by 2050. So they're considered special administrative regions for now. So they're kind of like in between and transitioning to becoming part of China. But all this is important because of development in China today. So to get into the background, China was backwards politically and economically going into the 1900s. The Qing dynasty had ruled since the 1600s, and this featured big landlords ruling the countryside and big imperial powers that were occupying trading and manufacturing areas in coastal and river cities. They controlled China's foreign trade and plundered its wealth. 80% of the population around the early 1900s were peasants, often.
If you want my honest answer to what does the CCP think of communists in America, I don't give a fuck. Why don't I give a fuck? I don't care about the CCP. I don't think that China is the biggest danger to us in the world, guys. I just don't. I think that China's kicking our asses in pretty much every which way possible. I don't think they see us as any sort of threat. I really don't. What I care about is communism in America. How China feels about communism in America is immaterial to me. How Russia feels about communism in America is immaterial to me. How Israel feels about communism in America is immaterial to me. How the UK and the King of England feels about communism in America is immaterial to me. I truly don't give a fuck. The only thing I care about are what are communists doing in America, and I know that the vast majority of communist groups in America do not believe the CCP is communist. They believe China is capitalist. Oh no, you just got put in a timeout, didn't you? Karlyn has no idea. Hey, bro, did you are probably one of those very special retards that literally thought that China was communist up until 5 seconds ago. So why don't you try shutting the fuck up? Actually, you know what? We're gonna put you in a 5-minute timeout. You're getting a 5-minute timeout for that one. Like, what a dick fucking thing to say in the chat. Philip, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate your perspective. Learn some new things I didn't hear in my bubble. 3 books I should read. Philip, I think you should spend your time watching primary source evidence from the left. Don't read the fucking books. Books are mostly propaganda. Why don't you just spend some time on the Denver Communist YouTube page and watch them directly? Primary source evidence is always the best way to go. A book is someone's interpretation. A book is someone else's argument. And I say that as an author of like 6 books. I've written like 6 books. I'm not shitting on books. But if you want to learn about the left, you watch the left or you buy the book. I will be finishing at some point explaining all this shit, but it's not done yet. So just go watch the Denver Communist YouTube page, bro. I'm not going to give you a book to read. I'm going to tell you go watch the primary source evidence. Excuse me? Who the fuck are you? I will say and do whatever the fuck I want. You will shut the fuck up. Don't ever tell me what to do again in my chat.
They controlled China's foreign trade and plundered its wealth. 80% of the population around the early 1900s were peasants, often in extreme poverty.
Well, no. Philip, I need you to open your ears and listen. I have not finished the book yet, so you cannot read the book yet. It does not exist yet. Well, it exists in some form, but not in a form that you can read. What I said was stop reading fucking books and go watch the Denver Communist YouTube page. You can watch other YouTube pages as well, but that's a pretty good one to start with. That's what I would do. That's what I would do. All right, you're kidding? All right, cool.
Japan took Taiwan, which caused some humiliation for China. And this and other things led into the Boxer Rebellion in Beijing in 1899 to 1901. And this was an anti-imperialist movement where it ended with imperialist armies occupying the capital. The Russo-Japanese War, 1904 to 1905, this also involved China as Japan occupied South Manchuria, but we know this in Russia as this was the 1905 revolution. Things are going on in Russia at that same time. In 1911, the Qing dynasty collapsed and was replaced by the Nationalist People's Party, the Kuomintang or the GMD. They're also known as the Kuomintang, the KMT, but we're just going to go with GMD. So this is the nationalist group that we'll talk about. Sun Yat-sen was the president and leader of the GMD, and eventually the country disintegrated as warlords fought for power and established rival chiefdoms. After World War I, Japan took Shandong, which, foreign powers taking land is just causing further humiliation for the Chinese. The May 4th movement, very notable. was formed in 1919, and Shanghai students were joined by tens of thousands of workers. They struck for 5 days. This was considered a new culture movement, featuring progressive youth and the first movement in cities. It was different than previous, more peasant movements. And there were, calls for rights for women and the poor, calls for defense of Chinese territory against imperialists and local collaborators. They were influenced by anarchist ideas from Japan and Europe. In 1918, we start to see the first unions for factory workers as the working class was growing rapidly. And this is right after the Russian Revolution of 1917. There was a growth of foreign-owned workshops and factories in cities like Guangzhou, Hong Kong, and Shanghai. So the beginning of the Chinese Communist Party in 1922, there was the first wave of working class struggle where we saw 30,000 seafarers and waterside workers striking for 8 weeks for union recognition and higher wages. Over the next 5 years, the class struggle accelerated. The May 4th movement and the Russian Revolution inspired the formation of the Chinese Communist Party. The anarchist influenced politics and attempts to form communes had become exhausted. Students and intellectuals began reading Marxism. The Bolshevik government also withdrew from Chinese territory at this time, which kind of inspired this as well. Also, the Comintern, this is like the foreign policy wing of the USSR. They were, sorry, I lost my spot. They had established themselves in Chinese cities, and this will come up again and again. The CCP was formed to call for workers' revolution. China at this time was similar to Russia, but more economically backward. The working class was smaller, and China was oppressed by imperialist powers. The Chinese bourgeoisie made their money through foreigners who dominated finance and industry. Peasants were calling for land to the tillers. The revolution of 1925 to 1927, there was a militancy of workers and peasants that was growing throughout the 20s. The Comintern had argued for an alliance between the dominant GMD and the CCP. And over time, they switched to demanding that the CCP merge with.
Yo, listen. I started writing this book like 2 fucking years ago and I still haven't finished it. And so I'll tell you what, if I was a person that was just trying to sell my books, A, I would probably talk about my books a lot more than I do. B, I would have finished the fucking book already. The book is coming into fruition. Okay, it's gonna get done. Just I can't fucking stand, like, no, but I'm not, like, I appreciate that you were joking. I'm absolutely not just trying to sell books. If I was, I would have finished the fucking book already.
The GMD. In 1925, the CCP was stronger in Shanghai, and through the General Labor Union, they organized a strike of 30,000 workers in Japanese-owned mills over 3 weeks. On May 30th, police killed 12 workers and students at a protest, and this sparked a general strike, and it started the revolution. Foreign powers killed 52 workers and students in Guangdong and caused a revolutionary uprising. There was a boycott of British goods and an exodus of workers from Hong Kong. They formed a strikers delegate conference, which was a form of workers' self-organization. Which oversaw the blockade of Britain, ran hospitals, schools, organized strike funds, confiscated luxury goods, and managed a strikers' court of justice. So this was a situation of dual power in Guangdong, and we know in a situation of dual power, one side's going to win over the other. It won't last forever. It's a quote from Red Flag. There was emerging in Guangdong an embryonic form of workers.
By the way, someone asked me yesterday, do communists ever study their own history? Not only do communists study their own history, communists give meticulously sourced presentations to each other on their interpretation of events of history. So yeah, they study history. They talk about history all the time. They teach each other history. That's literally what we're watching right now.
Power that could defeat the imperialists. The GMD was hostile to the demands of workers and peasants. In August in Shanghai, they violently suppressed a strike wave,
take all
working
my
with
purses, it's
capitalists and organized crime syndicates.
Can't have
And
that.
General Chiang Kai-shek took leadership in the GMD. Dennis Kosith refers to him as a murderous gangster, as he had sided with organized crime syndicates. He had arrested leaders from the CCP and crushed the strike committees and unions. Stalin and the Comintern supported the GMD, called for the CCP to subordinate to it, and Trotsky, of course, opposed this. Leading into Lenin's death in 1924, the Bolsheviks had degenerated, and Stalin's ideas of socialism in one country and stagism became more dominant. Russia was more interested, therefore, in allying with the nationalist GMD rather than the revolutionary ideas of the CCP. In talking about counter-revolution...
Hang on. What did you just say was the last part? Russia was more interested in allying. Russia was not. He's saying Russia was not interested in allying with the CCP. Listen.
Became more dominant. Russia was more interested, therefore, in allying with the nationalist GMD rather than the revolutionary ideas of the CCP.
So what they're saying is, Lenin didn't even fucking like the CCP. Lenin was not aligning with the CCP. And this is, again, the basis of the argument of like why the left doesn't generally support China and why they are certainly not funded by them, with rare exception in one teeny tiny little niche, is the left believes that Lenin's revolution was the correct revolution. China's revolution did not align with Lenin's revolution. China's revolution was in the tradition of Stalin. Stalin was the guy that fucked everything up. Stalin is the guy that they believe basically destroyed the communist revolution. And so Mao and the Chinese revolution was not in the spirit of Lenin, it was in the spirit of Stalin. Lenin didn't even like them.
Russia was more interested, therefore, in allying with the nationalist GMD rather than the revolutionary ideas of the CCP. In talking about counter-revolution, the Northern Expedition was where Chiang and the GMD began a military campaign to unify China. They were supported by Chinese capitalists. They provoked uprisings across the country. They were, I put in quotes, liberating it from foreign and warlord rule, and unions were being driven underground. In March to April 1927, the CCP organized a general strike and an armed insurrection in Shanghai.
Oh,
and
yeah?
we saw 800,000 working class and poor taking the streets. Workers formed militias and took the city. The GMD worked with gangs and capitalists to fight the uprising. They attacked and killed CCP and workers, putting down the uprising, with up to 5,000 murdered. And this is considered the Shanghai Massacre of 1927. Further defeats in Wuhan and Canton put down worker uprisings. Chiang and the GMD broke off relations finally with Russia and the Comintern, not needing them any longer. Talking about the development of Maoism, Mao is, around in the CCP in the earlier days. Into the 1930s, the CCP membership in cities declined. Mao and the CCP built up a guerrilla movement in the countryside. The CCP then abandoned its focus on workers. Mao established a Congress in Shanxi, which aimed to overthrow imperialism in the GMD. They sought to confiscate land and establish equal rights to peasants. This was a militaristic turn for the CCP, with up to 12,000 killed in purges from the party by Mao in 31 to 32. By 1934, the CCP was pushed from the area by Chiang and the GMD, and into 1935, the Red Army, which is what Mao's army became, began its long march fighting GMD forces and warlord armies. And that's the picture in the background. Mao used this to advance his position in the CCP, promote the idea of guerrilla warfare, and push the CCP towards being a nationalist party. And we also saw that an elite began to form within their leadership. Some of the defining features of Maoism around this time and going forward: an orientation to the peasant class, nationalism, dependence on military power to gain political power, putting ideas above material conditions, which we would consider idealism. Socialism was achieved on behalf of the working class by a peasant army instead of through the self-activity of workers. Which is substitutionalism.
So you see, they do not believe the revolution in China happened in the proper way, because it wasn't like an uprising of the proletariat. It was just this little army of peasants that decided to overthrow things. But that's not the same thing as what they're talking about in Russia or what they're talking about trying to do in the United States. They want a true ground up movement.
Stages, this also, Maoism also featured stagism like Stalinism, which is where first they see a bourgeois democratic revolution to overthrow imperialism and feudalism to clear a path to develop capitalism. And then the second stage being a state established under, as Mao says, a joint dictatorship of all the revolutionary classes, proletariat, peasantry, intellectuals, and sections of the petty bourgeoisie. I think out of all the pictures in this slide deck, this is probably one of my favorite because it's Chinese soldiers fighting the Japanese during World War II, and this is the Great Wall of China in the background there. So talking about World War II and the eventual Civil War, in 1937, Japan escalated its invasion of China, and China became divided into three areas. The Japanese Imperial Army controlled towns and railway lines in the eastern populous part of the country. The GMD held the southwest, and the CCP occupied areas in the northwest. The CCP grew during the war, over 1 million by 1945. The US and Russia assisted in driving out the Japanese, which kind of led to the end of the war. The US wanted the CCP and the GMD to form a coalition, but the civil war between them began in 1946. GMD soldiers often were defecting and joining the PLA. This is the People's Liberation Army, which is what Mao and the CCP are calling their army now, the PLA. And that army grew to over 5 million. Chiang and the GMD lost support in cities. The economy was in free fall. The middle class that had supported the GMD struggled and switched to support the CCP. Throughout 48 and 49, the PLA took cities that were under GMD control, and then Chiang and the GMD fled to Taiwan and established a US-backed government there, which the GMD is still the dominant party in Taiwan today. People's Republic of China was established in 1949 after the Civil War, and here's a quote from Red Flag. "If we adhere to Marx's conception of socialism as working class rule, the People's Republic of China was never socialist. The changes that have taken place since the 1980s undoubtedly..."
The People's Republic of China was never socialist. Here is the quote from the communist publication. "If we adhere to Marx's conception of socialism as working class rule, the People's Republic of China was never socialist." Did you not learn anything from the sit down and shut the fuck up timeout? Because it kind of seems like you're in your fucking feelings about things, when in fact what you should be doing is listening and learning. I don't give a fuck if you're disaffected. You don't get fucking points for being a disaffected liberal when you are still maintaining retard-like knowledge of what we're talking about here. You don't get any fucking points from me. You are in a class. Either shut the fuck up and learn or leave. But we do not care about your feelings, and I do not care about your opinion on this. Your opinion on this is nowhere near the level of my opinion on this. We are not the same. We are not equals. You are beneath me. There is a hierarchy here. You are not on the fucking top. You are not even close to the fucking top. Do you understand? Everyone wants special fucking treatment. No, no one gets special treatment here. You do not get special treatment if you're a disaffected lefty. You do not get special treatment if you are fucking older. You do not get special treatment if you are disabled. You do not get special treatment if you are fucking autistic. Literally, no one gets special treatment here. You are in a class. This is a class. If you do not want to learn, then get the fuck out. But expecting special treatment because of your fucking identity categories, first of all, that's really fucking leftist. Secondly, it does not serve you as a student in this class. Every single person is capable of sitting down, shutting the fuck up, listening, and learning. It doesn't matter if you have a disability. It doesn't matter if you're fucking autistic. It doesn't matter if you're an old person. It doesn't matter if you're a disaffected liberal. It doesn't fucking matter.
Significant socialism as working class rule. The People's Republic of China was never socialist. The changes that have taken place since the 1980s, undoubtedly significant, do not alter the fundamental fact that workers do not rule in China and never have. The CCP had no relationship to the working class in 1949. Only 2% of members were workers, with up to 72% that were peasants. And this was an example of substitutionalism, where the party stands in for the class, and the party claims to speak on behalf of and push for rights for the workers on their behalf. The CCP opposed strikes in GMD-run cities during World War II. And then during the Civil War, the CCP did not link striking workers in Shanghai with peasants or students. The CCP did not intend to bring workers into power, and they quickly slipped into power, replacing the GMD. And this was just a political revolution or regime change. It was not really a social revolution.
It was just a regime change, not a social
Top-down
revolution.
socialism. I'll start with this quote from Red Flag.
The CCP was top-down socialism. Russia, Lenin, the Russian Revolution, bottom-up socialism. The CCP, top-down socialism. Does everyone understand the difference? One in the chat if you understand the difference between bottom-up socialism like Russia. Two in the chat if you do not if you don't understand it. Hang on, strike that. One in the chat if you understand the difference between bottom-up socialism like in Russia and top-down socialism like in China. Two in the chat if that's confusing. You guys knew where I was going with that, okay? Everyone knew where I was going. Bot, shut the fuck up. Everyone understands? Cool.
The GMD, and this was just a political revolution or regime change. It was not really a social revolution.
Peter, you need to ask a question then. You need to ask a question.
Top-down socialism. I'll start with this quote from Red Flag. Such a struggle, Trotsky argued, would inevitably pass over to a struggle for socialism. A state in the hands of workers could then legislate for land to the peasantry, directly solving the rural question that lay at the heart of Chinese politics for centuries. The problem in China was that the
bro, I have no idea why you got blocked. I don't even know what your account is on here. I have no fucking clue. You don't need to apologize. Just chill out and fucking learn. Make a new YouTube account. Wait for me to do a general amnesty. Like, you got options here. You can come over to YouTube, but you just have to make another account. It's really not that hard. I promise you. It is not that hard to make another YouTube account. It really isn't. Like, I have like 5 of them. Like, it's really not that hard. You just need to make another Google account. It's really not that hard. You don't need to apologize. Just be chill. That's it.
Working class did not play a leading role after its historic defeat in 1927. The road to a socialist revolution, the road to a socialist resolution to Chinese crises was therefore closed off. The CCP maintained the status quo. They were hostile to workers' self-organization. There were strikes in Shanghai that increased exponentially in 1949. Mao in the CCP did not want workers in power. Over time, a cult of personality had formed around Mao, featuring Mao Zedong thought as an ideology, slogans like "Long live Chairman Mao." His writings were treated like sacred texts, and this was very similar to Stalin and Stalinism that was developing.
Okay. What they're saying is they were deifying Mao. They were making this cult of personality around Mao. That creates a hierarchy. Mao is at the top of the hierarchy. Hierarchies are antithetical to communism. Does everyone understand? They're saying Stalin put himself above everyone else. Stalin created a hierarchy. Mao also put himself above everyone else. Mao considered himself to be a god. It's the ultimate hierarchy. Communism means no hierarchy. If China, Mao had a hierarchy, that is antithetical to everything that they believe. Yeah, like North Korea. The left doesn't support North Korea. I've never heard the left say that they support North Korea. They think that North Korea is Stalinist. Yeah. Listen again.
Not want workers in power. Over time, a cult of personality had formed around Mao, featuring Mao Zedong thought as an ideology, slogans like "Long live Chairman Mao." His writings were treated like sacred texts, and this was very similar to Stalin and Stalinism that was developing. Trotsky spoke on the revolutionary incapacity of the peasantry. He said that the peasantry did not form into a new government, and they were unable to move China from a backward country to compete in a system of capitalist states. Trotsky argued that only the working class could lead a revolutionary struggle and liberate late developing nations. The working class has shown to develop collective response to social injustice and oppression and develop collective consciousness. The peasantry tend to develop individualistic identity with the demand for ownership of land as a focus. These next several slides will be talking about China since 1949. China began the process of independent economic development. In the 1950s, they adopted the state capitalist model of economic management. This is where the state nationalized private industry, collectivized land and rural cooperatives. The Great Leap Forward used rapid industrialization plans like those of the USSR's 5-year plans, and these featured rapid growth by rapidly squeezing the working class. And this had a negative effect on the workers with mass revolts, food shortages, and a devastating famine. Mao's Cultural Revolution in the 70s was where he had forced Maoism and purged his detractors from the right and the left, leading to a death toll in the tens of thousands, estimated up to millions. Mao did this while establishing relations with Nixon and Western capitalists. And after 78, the new leader, Deng Xiaoping, launched reforms decollectivizing agriculture and expanded private enterprise. In recent decades, China has expanded into new global markets, allowed private capitalist ownership of industry, expanded and modernized cities, focused on capital accumulation over the needs of
China has allowed private capitalist ownership of industry and has focused on capitalist accumulation.
Workers.
They even said in the 50s, the CCP adopted the state capitalist model of economic management. They're saying China's a capitalist country.
And peasants, and integrated the business class into the party. Another quote from Red Flag: the CCP was not free to act as it wished. A competitive and hostile world economy dictated the need for a strong national economy, so industrialization was the priority. Talking about international and some domestic relations, in the 60s, China claimed to be anti-imperialist and a supporter of national liberation struggles. They broke with Russia in the 60s. To undermine Russia, they backed reactionary Western-backed despotic regimes such as the Shah of Iran. Cambodia's Khmer Rouge, Chile's General Pinochet, Syria's Bashar al-Assad, and more. They became the second largest imperialist power. They have nuclear bombs. The pictures on the bottom left, they have colonized and oppressed Tibet since 1950. Tibetans are Buddhist minorities within the country. And also these pictures on the right depict the oppression that the Uyghurs face in a province in China. Many would argue that this is a cultural genocide. We see over here, this is the Uyghur flag, and
they're against the genocide of the Uyghurs. No one tell conservatives that communists are against the genocide of the Uyghur Muslims, because immediately that will make conservatives in favor of the genocide of Uyghur Muslims. This is why you never base your positions on whether or not your enemy disagrees with you, because conservatives think if the left says something, then it is bad and I must do the opposite of that thing. Well, guess what? The left is against the genocide of the Uyghur Muslims. Don't tell conservatives, don't tell the GOP this, because if they find out about this, they will say, well, we have to do the opposite of that thing, and now we are in favor of the genocide of the Uyghur Muslims. Never base your opinion on what someone else thinks. You might agree with some people that you don't agree with on most things. You might disagree with them. But if you are simply a reactionary, you're simply saying anything my enemy says is inherently wrong, and I agree, and I believe the opposite just because my enemy says it, you wind up in stupid positions like this.
This picture in the bottom right is Uyghurs in detention being forced to listen to speeches. The picture in the top right depicts that China is using naval exercises in the East and South China Seas to intimidate Taiwan and the Philippines, and to assert itself in Asia as a military power. I put an asterisk by the Philippines because this just happened last week, where they were in the South China Sea trying to intimidate the Philippines and conducting military or naval exercises. China steps into global South countries, trapping them into debt and exploiting their natural resources. Let's talk about the Tiananmen uprising.
I think this is a really interesting reaction from Focus here. This has been an awesome re-education video. Everything I thought I knew about the CCP as a former conservative was wrong. How many other people are feeling like that in the chat right now? Listen, there's still a little bit of the video left to go, but how many people thought they understood the relationship between the left in America with the left in America with the CCP? You thought you understood how the left viewed the CCP and how the CCP viewed the left, and now you're actually listening to the left talking about it, and it is a completely different fucking thing. One in the chat if everything you thought was true was wrong. Two in the chat if you understood all of this before we even watched the video. One in the chat if everything you thought was true about this relationship just turned out to be wrong in like one 20-minute video. Two in the chat if this is what you thought was going on. Yep. 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 H-Tom, I knew you knew what was up. I knew you. Some people do know what's up. Yep. Yep, lots of people being proven wrong, and this is why we watch primary sources, guys. It's not my opinion. It's not speculation. They tell you what they believe on every topic. You just have to listen to them. And when you listen to them, you find out most of the time, conservative influencers and journalists and commentators and pundits are fucking lying about the left and massively misinforming their audiences so that the audiences become completely unhinged from reality with what the left actually says and what the left actually believes. And when you watch what they say to each other, it's so clear what's going on.
Beginning in April of 1989, students began protests against the Chinese government in Beijing's Tiananmen Square. They were joined by workers. They were joined by workers and were protesting against government corruption and inequality. They were fighting for free speech and democracy, and in response to poor economic conditions. This continued into June with up to 1 million occupying the square and spreading protests around the country. The government responded on June 4th by sending in the tanks and the army, which led to a massacre of thousands. Campism, many on the left, typically Marxist-Leninists, defended China's interventions, which perpetuated the term tanky. This mirrored the USSR's intervention in uprisings and revolutions in Hungary in 1956 and Czechoslovakia in 1968, which originated the term tanky. But we mean campists by folks who would side with one camp over another, in this case, the alleged Chinese communist government over the United States. Campists like the PSL and Frizzo today defend the CCP in putting down this revolt, and some
the PSL is defending the CCP. Campus like the PSL are defending this bullshit. They're shit talking the Party for Socialism and Liberation, guys. I told you, these people shit talk the Party for Socialism and Liberation all the fucking time.
In this case, the alleged Chinese communist government over the United States. Campists like the PSL and Frizzo today defend the CCP in putting down this revolt, and some defend even Xi, the modern president in modern China, as anti-imperialist powers. They would defend China and others like Syria, Russia, Iran, and Cuba as an axis of resistance. Here's a quote from Ashley Smith on campists. In the end, they position themselves on the side of other imperialist and capitalist states, going through mental gymnastics to deny their capitalist, exploitative, and oppressive character. Some other things about China today. Today, China has the most billionaires in the world at just over 1,000. Those are some of the folks across the middle there. Many of these billionaires often come from the families of high-ranking Chinese Communist Party members. China competes in the world economy with the US, Russia, India, and others. They manufacture products like iPhones. They put down a democratic uprising in Hong Kong in 2019 to 2020, which is what the rest of these pictures depict. Xi Jinping got rid of the 2-term limit so he can be president for life, very similar to Mao. Strikes and protests still continue with workers, veterans, and students. Here's a quote from Dennis Kosith. Since the late 1970s, the Chinese Communist Party has presided over market reforms that have turned the country into a major economic power, thanks to the exploitation of the working class. Today, what is called socialism with Chinese characteristics is a capitalist dream come true, a place of cheap labor.
Was that just a snipe at James Lindsay? Did they just snipe at James Lindsay? Did they literally just snipe at James Lindsay? Did that just happen? Did the Denver communists literally just snipe at James Lindsay, just like covertly? Is this my birthday? Is my birthday again? Is it Valentine's Day? Is it Halloween and Christmas and Thanksgiving and every good holiday and the 4th of July all rolled into one? Did that literally just fucking happen? Yeah, that was like the nuclear quote of the entire fucking presentation. I know it's not Aries season anymore, though we're in Taurus now and it sucks. Again, sir, again.
Reforms that have turned the country into a major economic power, thanks to the exploitation of the working class. Today, what is called socialism with Chinese characteristics is a capitalist dream come true.
Wow.
A place of cheap labor, docile, state-controlled unions, high profits, and lavish living for the super rich. All of this has come at the expense of the overwhelming majority of Chinese who work in poverty and live under the boot of an oppressive state. My conclusions, I'll start with this quote from Ashley Smith. In cases of national liberation, we unconditionally but critically side with the oppressed in their struggle for freedom. In those struggles, however, we do not confuse national liberation with socialism, rejecting the temptation to paint such battles with a red brush. Instead, we adopt an independent approach of building solidarity with the workers and the oppressed within those struggles and cultivating political relationships with their progressive and revolutionary forces to turn struggle for national liberation into ones for socialism. As revolutionary socialists, we need to use a Marxist historical materialist lens to examine revolutionary situations and fully understand them. We need to support the working class and left movements in China, Taiwan, and Hong Kong and other places under the influence of China. We want to support workers' self-organization efforts, movements to defeat capitalism and imperialism. We need to argue against campism from Maoists, Marxist-Leninists, and Stalinists who defend the CCP and others. We need to identify the Chinese Communist Party for what it is, communist only in name. And we need to identify China.
The Chinese Communist Party is communist only in name.
We need to argue against campism from Maoists, Marxist-Leninists, and Stalinists who defend the CCP and others. We need to identify the Chinese Communist Party for what it is, communist only in name. And we need to identify China for what it is, a capitalist country that oppresses its workers, exploits its minorities, and uses imperialism to exploit other countries in the global south and spread its influence. And I'll end with a modified quote, neither Washington nor Beijing, but international socialism.
Wow! And this, ladies and gentlemen, is why we love the Denver Communists. And why, if you are new to this work, and you're like, Karlyn, I would like to study on my own time. Because, listen, when people become introduced to this stuff, they want to spend all their time watching socialism. I understand. I went through this phase as well. Where literally, when I started watching socialism, all I wanted to do was watch more socialism because I was like, this shit is crazy. It was like a drug. It was like, inject me with socialism. Like, I don't do like hard drugs or anything. Weed doesn't fucking count, okay? But I was like, inject this into my fucking veins because it's crazy and I just want to learn everything these people think. And if you feel like you're in that stage, really one of the best places you can go is the Denver Communist YouTube channel. Honestly, they have so much stuff. They say the quiet part out loud all the time. They are unapologetic in their beliefs. They explain things very simply because what you're seeing on this YouTube channel are classes that they've done for each other to help educate each other on what they believe. And so it really is just an amazing resource where you will hear them explain almost any single topic. And you don't need me to watch this stuff. If you know how to speak their language and you have a general idea of like how they think, you can watch this stuff and come to some conclusions on your own. And even if you don't fully understand the language yet, like watching it and immersing yourself in it will help you understand it. Okay? And so that is going to be our stream for today, ladies and gentlemen. I hope everyone had a really great stream. Did you guys enjoy that? 1 in the chat if I taught you something today that you didn't know before we did today's stream. 2 in the chat if this was all old information. 1 in the chat if you learned something today that you didn't know before the stream. 2 in the chat if this was all old information and you knew all this already. Just watching the chat. It's a lot of 1s. It's a lot of 1s, not a lot of 2s. Guys, I appreciate you all coming out to the stream today. Not a single 2 in the chat, which is fucking awesome. That means everyone learned something today, which is the point of all of this. I want to thank everyone who sent in super chats, especially Ding 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 over on Rumble, sending in a super chat as restitution for fucking up banning the retard. But that all worked out because the retard came back and we got to shame him anyway. So I got $50 and I got to do the thing I wanted to do anyway. So I think that's pretty great. So W Ding 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 for that one. Thank you to everyone who donated the 122 new gifted channel memberships given out today. That's 122 new people who can come to Spy Stream. We do not have a Spy Stream tomorrow, but we do have one on Friday. And Fridays is going to be fucking epic. Fridays, we're going to start at around 5:30. We're not going to have a normal 5 p.m. stream on Friday. We're going to start the Spy Stream around 5:30. I will be sending out the information. We'll talk about that. You can find the information on the post tab in the community. Grill us. Thanks so much for the super sticker, bro. Really appreciate you getting one in on the way out the door. You're going to want to come to Spy Stream on Friday if you're a channel member. It's going to be a really, 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 really good one. And you guys know I don't say that about every Spy Stream, although I think most Spy Streams I do are pretty good. But you guys know I don't say that. Like, write it in your calendar right now. Spy Stream, 5:30, Friday. Be there. If you're a supporter on another platform, you can find the link on whatever platform you are a supporter on. But we will be doing a regular stream tomorrow. And then on Friday night, after the Spy Stream, on Friday night, we're going to do the Kino Casino. We're watching the casino on Friday at around 8:30, which is basically when they start. Bro, how many times have I told you just make another fucking YouTube account? Make another fucking YouTube account. Like, I can't help you. Make up another fucking YouTube account. So that's all we have today, guys. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everyone who donated to support the channel. Thank you to everyone who made it all the way through the stream. You guys rock. And I'll be back tomorrow and we will watch something else. So that is all she wrote for tonight. Take care, guys.
How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer.
eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital.
That's difficult to answer.